Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had a Venom quirk part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story DeadlokAU from Wattpad. So let's start the video. Izuku Yagi, punching bag of a sister to Izumi Yagi and the abused quirkless runt of a daughter of 𝗵𝗃𝗀 and 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Yagi, the number 5 and 1 heroes respectively, seemingly whose only purpose is, and I quote, find a man who can hopefully treat us as a family right by putting you in your place. And although she was bullied everywhere she went, the young girl did not relent from the day her life went downhill. Ever since her 4th birthday when she was diagnosed quirkless, she pushed forward with her dream of becoming a hero, her inspiration changing from All Might to 𝗧𝗍𝗪 after learning of the true nature of her parents' jobs and her father's quirk after being locked up in the punishment cupboard yet again for coming home dirty. That was one of the things her parents hated most about her, the fact she would drag dirt all around the apartment that she was tasked to constantly keep clean for even the chance to eat for the day. In all fact, the dirt were the injuries she received every day from her friends and sister. Though one good thing came out of it, the girl learned how to seal her own wounds with a scavenged hot glue gun and gain the medical knowledge no one should have at that age, all thanks to practice and experience. The girl couldn't know any better though, and as such accepted she deserved this treatment, becoming 𝗬𝗵𝗲 to her parents' demands, turning her already hellish life into tiring one as well. Not only was she tasked with all the household tasks, but she was also made to buy groceries for the family with her own non-existent money, forced to cook for them and many times forced to watch them eat while she starved in her room. The tasks only grew as she should have. As she turned 10 and the people around her started developing, she didn't. All the malnutrition, abuse, neglect, and damage to her body had stunted her growth detrimentally, something she had to find out for herself after seeing a doctor who was worried for her state until the topic of her quirk came up. In the end, he was just another scar on her body. That night the girl was alone as usual. This time though, sleep never came to relieve her of the nightmare of a life she lived, and it wouldn't be a comfort for a long time either. Izuku Yagi, now 13.5 years of age, was once again limping back home. This time the abuse took a turn. After they beat her in school, they knocked her out and dragged her to a nearby forest, tying her up and continuing to leave scars, courtesy of Izumi, and a knife, scorch marks, bakugo, and aggravated burns, thanks to the Todoroki twins. However, once the 2 other girls left, the boys brought her down and decided it was time to have some different kind of fun. Needless to say, that day was one where the girl would have nightmares about for the rest of her life. The day she felt dirty outside and inside. Nearing her home apartment, the air seemed to warm up around her, causing her to shudder at the change. This, however, caused her freeze as a thought hit her. She walked up to the door and pressed her ear against it, only to hear what she didn't want to: manic giggling, tired sighing, and an angry Uncle NG. Good dad here, by the way. He married Ray out of love and she kept him on the straight and narrow. However, the Hero Commission forced him to give up to ya and then reported him dead later. They all still think he's gone, so they built a small shrine for him. She gently opened the door, praying that everyone was in the main room, not the kitchen right next to the entrance. She was never that lucky. Izuku Inko hissed at her daughter, who stood at the door, trying not to draw attention from her guests. What did I say about coming home dirty? And not teak, Izuku stuttered out. And what are you now, birdie? Sorry won't save you this time. I've let you OFF time and time again. Easy, not this time. Please, sorry, mother. I know that's it, go, bye. Get lost, I don't want to see you. Get the hell out, Inko whisper yelled before slamming the door in her daughter's face. Izuku stood there, shocked, trying to process what just happened. Her body started moving of its own, away from the hellhole she called home for the entirety of her abusive life. She finally snapped out of it when she came into an alley, finally letting it sink, and she collapsed onto the floor, openly weeping, curled up in a little ball as the night drew on. When the sun rose and the people came out, the girl had accepted her new reality, one of isolation and aloneness. She did decide to try and go to school, so she might at least have one chance to eat something and maybe be protected from people during the day. Slowly getting to her feet, she brushed down her uniform and made her way to school, ignoring the whispers from her tormentors when she arrived late with unkempt hair. School got a little better for her as she no longer had to go home in the same direction every day. They couldn't get her on the way in or out anymore considering she never left in the same direction. It didn't help during school though, as the physical and verbal abuse picked up. At least the boys never got the chance to repeat what they did that day again. She found ways to sneak more food into her school meals. This didn't go unnoticed by the four, and more often was her lunch thrown onto the ground and walked all over, comments about her weight and features becoming more prominent, despite the fact she was lighter and smaller than any of them. Even though the food was on the floor, she still ate it after in private, thankful for every mouthful, as it was another mouthful she wouldn't have to take out of the dumpster from behind a supermarket later on. As the first week drew to a close where she slept on the floor, she finally found a box she could sleep on, making things just a little better for her. Though it didn't last long, as a few days later it got stolen, causing her to look for another. And the 𝗧𝗵𝗃 continued until she gave up with the streets. She decided she would try sleeping in the park. The grass would be softer, even if there were creepy people there a lot of the time. So she did, and for a few days all was good. She found an area devoid of others, a small hidden field, open to only one small covered-up path. Then on the third night she witnessed a meteor shower. Now, her being the neglected child she was first scared of them, though after a few seconds she began watching them in wonder. It was one of the most appealing things she had ever seen, and she enjoyed every second of it. It ended and she felt sad. Then as soon as they left, one more showed up, this time coming directly for poor Izuku. She didn't notice though, still absorbed in awe and wonder of it all. Until its size grew to a noticeable amount, then she did notice. She panicked and quickly ran behind a tree before the object landed, throwing up a ridiculous amount of dust. Once it settled, the girl glanced over, seeing a small black rock. Feeling drawn to it, she crept forward out of her hiding spot and towards it. When she got close, however, she could see the black falling off the small rock and onto the ground. Curious as she was, she touched it, only for it to latch onto her. She screamed and fell back onto her butt, trying to throw it off with no effect. In the end it disappeared. "Hello, child," a voice spoke out. "Who are you?" Izuku spoke out, trying to find the voice. "I'm right here, kid," the voice said as black goo emerged from her neck, forming a face. "Name's Venom. Nice to meet you." With that the girl fainted onto the ground. Sighing, Venom slithered back into her body and decided to root around her memories a bit, try and find out a bit more about his new host and the world she lived in. Needless to say, he was infuriated at her treatment, making a promise that night, a promise to never leave this kid's side again and to give her the life her kind soul deserved. The sun rose, as did Izuku, the memories of last night still seeming like a dream to her. All the evidence around her that anything happened was circumstantial. Even the rock looked completely normal in the daylight. She sighed to herself, wondering if any of it was real. "It was Kid," Venom said, forming the good head next to hers again. This time she didn't scream, she just stared at him for a minute before asking, "You said you were called Venom?" The goop nodded. "So, I don't mean to be rude, but why are you inside my body? It's different to when those boys did it, so what's going on?" Venom internally cringed at this, remembering what he saw the night before. "Well, kid, long story short, I'm an alien, a symbiote if you want. I bond with something and give them powers, like the quirks you have here, only mine are much stronger and adaptable. In return you feed me and we both enjoy our new lives." "Oh, that's so cool. So like, what are your powers? Could you like mumble?" Izuku fell down her little muttering rabbit hole of analysis. Venom smiled at this, happy to see her doing one of the things she loved. "Izuku," Venom said, catching her attention, "my powers are quite simple really. The goop, as you call it, can go around you, covering you like a suit, giving you enhanced everything. As well, you can shoot tendrils out like and swing around. I think something happened on the way in because I feel different. What that means I'm not sure, but what I do know is what I eat. Please don't say people, chocolate and tater tots, really." "Yup, and I want to apologize as well." "For what?" "I looked through your memories last night, kid. I did it so I could find out if I should stay or go, to see if you were the right one for me," Venom said, looking down ashamed. "Oh, well that's okay. I'll help you find someone actually worthy of your blessing," Izuku said, sad before looking up with a bright smile. "Just don't forget me when you go on to do great things, okay?" "Kid, I won't forget you," Venom said, now looking up in all serious, "because I'm going to help you become a hero." I've been all across the universe, kid, and you are by far one of the purest souls I've ever met. Even now when you could lose your one chance at your dream, you put me, an alien you only just met, before you. If that isn't worthy, then nothing is. Izuku started to tear up at this. Because you, Izuku, can be a hero, and I'll help you every step of the way, together forever. Izuku asks, tears flowing down her face. Together forever, kid, Venom responds, but first we need to have a little talk. Izuku tensed up at this, thinking she would be punished or scolded again. No, don't worry, you aren't in trouble, kid, this is about them. Izuku asks, tilting her head to the side adorably, the people you've been stuck with since you were born. A look of realization came across the girl's face. Kid, I've been round the Milky Way a few times to know what they did to you was wrong. Don't try and defend them. What I'm offering you now is a choice, but please think about this. You can either drop the name that was forced upon you and leave that life you suffered in behind, or you can continue how you are at the moment. But kid, seriously, your own parents haven't even noticed your absence, have they? And has your school treatment changed? Izuku shook her head. Plus, if you were to stay, I can objectively say that the training will be a lot harder and it will not be as efficient. Silence followed as Izuku thought over her options, though admittedly it wasn't strong for her. In the short time knowing this alien, he'd shown her more kindness and empathy than she had received in that house her whole life, even including some of her nice uncle and aunts. I agree, but I've still got to go to school. I can't get into UA without an education, Venom. Izuku, tell me, when was the last time the school actually taught you anything? Izuku fell silent as she tried to think. Exactly, kid, you're a genius. I see some memories of your notebooks. The analysis on them alone is on another level, but the support gear you designed for them, I swear you could patent half the stuff and become rich. Izuku's eyes widened at that. But if it's really education you're worried about, how about I drop some of the information I've got into your mind every now and again? Not that you'd need it, but I know a few things that would probably rock this world. Izuku smiled at that. So Venom, I think we have ourselves a deal. Izuku says, reaching her hand out, which Venom takes after forming a tendril. After shaking the tendril snakes around the girl's wrist, and a suit starts forming around her, causing her body to seemingly swell and grow to a size taller and buffer than her father. Whoa, Izuku says, trying to regain her balance from her new height. This is so cool. Yeah, kid, but that's not the half of it. Try take control, Venom says inside her head. Where'd you go? Izuku says, looking around for her sentient slime friend. In your head, kid, don't worry about it, just try and take control. Think of it like this, I'm the power, you're the one who can manipulate it, cause right now it's like a fire with no control. Okay, Izuku says as she controls the goop. After a few minutes she opens her eyes again, only to be a lot closer to the ground. Nice kid, you're a lot smaller and less noticeable. Thanks, Venom. Do I still look like a girl? Why do you a kid? I'll tell you now, you look badass. Even I can't tell your gender at the moment. Izuku smiled under her mask. Thanks, Venom. Now, time for some training, don't you think? Venom says, slight malice in his voice, which Izuku picked up on and gulped. For the next few hours Izuku's training was relentless. Venom made her practice lifting objects without his help directly. He said he wouldn't help, but in reality he was manipulating the development of Izuku's body, shifting her muscles and growth to be set to what it should be, as well as giving boost to her base strength. Yeah, Venom's idea of little was a little bit off. Izuku says, lifting up a massive tree with ease. Venom, what did you do? You figured it out, Venom said from inside her head. Well, you know you haven't had the best start to life. As such, your body hasn't had what it needs to develop. So I did a little fixing and a small boost to your base strength while I was at it. Venom, that's not a little, Izuku said, shivering at the thing he called little. Really? Well, it isn't going to matter much anyways. After a month of this, I would say your strength could rival that of your father's. Venom says flatly, whoa, really? Yup, but kid, you've got to get to work on. Tomorrow rest and I'll see what else I can do inside your body, but start noting down all those ideas and then we can work on getting you a steady income. Got it? Izuku said, stars in her eyes. As the day shifted into night, Izuku's sleep was once again interrupted by nightmares. This caused Venom to worry at how casually she shook off the horrific images even he'd be sick at. Scratch that, he was strong to tell when the sick was just some more goop. Izuku had quickly noted down some of her more basic ideas in the back of her notebook, the only one she currently had on her considering the rest were back at her parents' house, and she really didn't want to go back just yet. Though that didn't mean the receptionist wasn't shocked when she confronted the young girl only to be met with bleeding edge designs. Needless to say, the top dog currently in the building was called immediately and a very profitable deal was struck for the both of them. Izuku would be able to patent them all for free, however she would receive only 75% of what she should have. In return, the company would take the other 25%, be able to use any patents put under this deal without paying, and they would spread the word, practically ensuring the money. A key factor was the fact they would also make a fake identity for her after she revealed limited parts about her past, including the people who her and some the hell she had to go through. Needless to say, Izuku Venom was by the end of the day set to become quite rich. The man had offered her a place to stay before the money came in, but she respectfully denied, saying she could wait a bit longer. This didn't stop him from practically kidnapping her though, so he could at least let her eat and bathe. After dinner, he gave her some clothes and a piece of advice. He told her not to reveal the truth about Venom since they both knew all too well about the quirkless society they lived in and had both been oppressed due to them lacking such. He did try one more time to convince her to stay but was shut down once again. In the end, he promised to help her set up a charity for the quirkless once she had her feet under her, though after came a very awkward conversation of the man's name. He laughed it off and officially introduced himself as 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃, Shinrai being his family name, and both shared another awkward moment as her past nickname was brought back up. Though she settled on calling him Rai, both were quite happy with the final outcome of that day. Izuku made her way back to the clearing where she was currently living. The problem was she almost came across her tormentors because of the time. Luckily, 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁 wasn't exactly the quiet type, so she managed to jump up onto a roof before they turned the corner out of the alley, not even noticing the sound of her jumping. Izuku, on the other, hadn't landed fast on her back in shock. Sure, she knew she had some strength, but this level surprised even Venom, who quickly realized what happened and understood that she was acting on instinct alone at that moment. After he calmed down a very hysterical girl, he could make out snippets of the conversation below him, not able to tell the voices apart since having someone's memories and living through them were two completely different things. So do you think Izuku's gonna try? Nah, I mean she's been keeping to herself recently and coming in less than usual. I'd say she's given up on her dream at this. Venom scoffed. They hadn't noticed her week-long absence, and I'm sure the school was just as eager to permanently get rid of her. Idiots, she was a prodigy in pretty much any scientific or medical field, and now she would be a prodigy hero as well. What? Venom had some plans to make her famous before the end of her first year. He's not as dumb as he seems. But what if she hasn't? We do it one last time, one big one, push her over the edge if she's still sitting on the fence. What do you guys think? Sounds of agreement came from the other three, causing Venom to let out a low growl. This time Izuku picked up on it and questioned her new friend, only for him to suggest wearing the goop full-time now, as it would protect her from any attackers if they attacked, hide her identity from her tormentor, and get her to train in her endurance. Izuku agreed and thus started her week of hell training. During the day it was non-stop workouts. Exhaustion wasn't a problem when Venom was constantly rebuilding her body. The problem was that half of the exercises she did was dumpster diving for things Venom to eat so she could keep up the rate of improvement she needed to. This was only in the day though, as her night training was much more physically tame. Since Venom couldn't stop her nightmares, he used them to his advantage. Once she woke up he knew she wouldn't fall asleep again, so he used that time to help her make new designs for when they returned the following week, letting her brain run in overdrive, all the while dropping tidbits of information in every now and again to boost the level of her gadgets. Once the week passed, Izuku's skill far exceeded that of any of her uncles, stronger than Uncle Enji, more agile than Uncle Shoda, and a higher IQ than Uncle Nizu. Plus her designs definitely put her Uncle David's on the ropes. She made her way back to the office, this time with her manipulated version of Venom around her so she wouldn't be as exposed as before, but at the same time she wouldn't draw any unwanted attention. The receptionist was shocked, however, when the black figure asked directly for Shinrai, not wanting to cause any problems with the very imposing person in front of her or her boss. She quickly sent Izuku upstairs. Shinrai was very confused when Izuku walked into the room, on edge even, but as soon as she felt this she got Venom to remove the head part of her disguise, revealing the girl the man adored so much. After came the admin, sorting out an account, a card and setting her up with a few houses for rent that were of good quality but a low price even if she had managed to amass more than 1.5 million yen in less a week. They both knew not to waste the fortune they were lucky to come across. By the time she walked out of the building, the girl was on cloud 9. So was Venom, actually, considering he was given lots of chocolates while she was given a couple of packets of flying saucers. Though Venom soon had to take over their little stroll as new ideas came flooding into Izuku's head, causing her to 𝗬𝗃𝗃 out her notebook and start furiously writing. Though they hadn't even gotten to the first house yet when she was broken out of her trance by yelling. She looked up only to see a matured pink-haired girl around her age thrown out of a house, literally with people who looked like her parents shouting at her and throwing some sort of device out after her. Izuku, worried for this girl's safety considering her attire, or rather lack of it, quickly grabbed the girl in the tank top and the device next to her, jumping up to a nearby roof. "Hey, are you okay?" Izuku/Venom asked with a distorted voice. "Oh hey, are you going to take advantage of me now then?" the pink girl asks in a depressed manner, hair covering her eyes. Why would I?" Izuku asks before realizing. "Oh right ye on." Izuku let Venom flow back into her as the menacing black figure reduced itself to a smaller than average, long green fluffy-haired child. "Hey, I'm Izuku Venom and you are." The girl's eyes lit up at this and the notebook that had conveniently fallen out, flipping itself to a random page. That's so cool. Is it like your quirk? Can you manipulate it freely?" "Oh, what else can it do?" Then her eyes landed on the open book. In an instant it was in her hands as she was flipping through the pages, eyes glinting like a madman or woman. "Are these all yours? They're so amazing. Wait, are you that Venom person whose ideas have made a big splash in the support industry lately?" "Wait, what am I saying? Of course you are. All your designs carry your own personal style in them. These though are like way more advanced. Were you holding out with the first round? Because wow, if that was holding out, then these must be you trying a bit. These ideas are revolutionary. Maybe with a bit of tweaking here, and merging those two, you could create an almost universal support gear that everyone would love to use." As the girl stopped to take a breath, ticking could be heard from below them. Both looked down at the device Izuku was still holding. The girl went wide-eyed at this and Izuku picked up on it. Using small and thin tendrils, she pushed them inside the device and quickly found the current was overbearing a capacitor, so she redirected the excess current to a layer below the housing, allowing it to not blow up in their faces. "Whoa, that was amazing," the pink-haired girl said, staring at the now non-explodey device. "Thanks," Izuku said, smiling, "but I still need your name." "Oh, it's 𝗵𝗃𝗃, at your service, the next big inventor." I wouldn't doubt that. This thing's very well made, especially if it was only from scraps," Izuku says, analyzing the device. "Also, why are you still carrying your family name? They kicked you out. They don't deserve the things you will no doubt get in the future." "Oh, I don't know. I guess it just feels wrong and I'm still not completely sure." "Warehouse. What happened?" May managed to stutter out before bursting into tears, only to be engulfed in a signature Izuku hug. After nearly half an hour of calming the girl down, the two talked, Izuku discussing the true nature of Venom after he persuaded her to. The girl needed someone of her own age to be around. She also shared bits of her past and the true identity of her parents, which disgusted the pink-haired girl. They also went over Izuku's designs and May's device, clicking with each other's train of thought instantly, their roles of the ideas person and the inventor becoming set in stone by the end of their talk, unknown to the both of them, of course. Izuku's big heart couldn't let her be homeless like she used to be, so she offered her to come with her to look at apartments they could rent, and she instantly agreed. Though it really didn't take long, as the first one was a dump, the second in a very pretentious area, while the final one was decent enough but overlooking a very trashy beach. Apparently this brought the property price down considerably. Venom had an idea and convinced Izuku to let him negotiate. In the end they paid slightly higher than the original offer, but with the promise that as long as they kept renewing the contract, the landlord couldn't up the price. The two got right at it, clearing and cleaning the apartment. Within the hour it was in livable conditions with minimal furniture, so of course they went out to buy two futons, a desk for May to invent on, a wardrobe and a fridge, and thanks to a courier's quirk they were all set up in an instant after purchase. Then they went clothes and food shopping, though the May and Izuku needed a bit of help from the employees in certain areas due to the neglectful upbringing they both had in common. Though the food shopping was a lot better thanks to all the knowledge Izuku had picked up on, Needless to say, neither of them would go hungry again, and Venom had both his tater tots and chocolate needs taken care of. In the end, the two girls happily settled into their new apartment after putting away their clothes and Izuku making some katsudon to celebrate their new home with a person they only just met. The two talked some more before Venom interrupted and told them to head to bed, which after a lot of fighting they did. As the two fell asleep, Venom extended himself from his host to look over the beach. He planned for her to clean the beach for the next month's training plan, of course with a little help from him. He was jolted from his thoughts when he felt Izuku move. Not wanting to spoil his surprise, he slithered back into her body and felt her wake up in a cold sweat. Quickly brushing it off again, Izuku got up and headed to the kitchen for a glass of cold water. After downing it, she headed back to her futon with plans to design the night away. This was stopped when she was met with a very panicked Mei. "Hey Mei, what's wrong?" Izuku asked, worry evident in her voice. Mei managed to stutter out. Izuku understood immediately and hugged the shaking girl, slowly guiding her to one of the two futons. Leaning forward, she helped Mei down and let her continue to hug her. Izuku slowly stroked Mei's hair as the two drifted off to sleep. That night was the first in a long time where the nightmares didn't come for Izuku. Instead, she slept in for once, and Venom wasn't one to complain. When the two finally woke up the next day to grumbling stomachs, they were happier than ever, Izuku especially since she didn't have nightmares. Thus, being the innocent being she is, asked Mei if they could always sleep together, and Mei, being the amazing person she is, couldn't refuse. The week passed by quickly with them both becoming more accustomed to their new lives. Mei set up one of the rooms for experiments, funded by the trash-filled beach outside, while Izuku's training slowed a bit as Venom wanted her to experience a normal life for a bit. Training could wait, her childhood could not. The two grew closer during that week, and their combined workmanship increased exponentially, with none of Mei's device exploding, which was apparently unheard of. When they were coming to the end of the week, Izuku told Mei about striking a deal with the company she was partnered with, since they had a support department for developing Izuku's ideas into a reality, though none had been managed to be realized by them yet. Mei, however, had brought 6 of Izuku's ideas to life as her babies, simply with the trash from the beach. They both saw no reason why she couldn't help. They made their way to the building again. This time Izuku/Venom brought Mei, which once again confused the receptionist, especially since Mei brought a backpack she wouldn't open except for security, who weren't the sharpest tools in the shed. The two made their way up to Shinrai's office. Opening the door, the two froze at the sight of 2 people in the room. Following suit, the two in the room froze at the unexpected extra guest. "Rai, explain," Izuku/Venom said, letting out a low growl. "Izuku, just why?" Shinrai tried to say before being out off by the other man's. "Hello young man, please forgive Shinrai. I forced him into this," the man said, standing up, causing Izuku to stand protectively in front of Mei. "Please, I mean no harm. I'm the CEO of this company and I wanted to come here and thank you personally. Your ideas have caused out stocks to increase by 600%. So I came to my favorite quirkless employee and asked to meet with you, but I just missed you last week, so he told me to come here this week so I could discuss the mass production of your ideas with a special person." Izuku still didn't trust the man, especially when he mentioned Shinrai's quirkless nature, so her hostility grew and she stood in front of her new friend, not moving an inch. "Sir, please, I know you're probably trying to help, but I think you're making this worse," Shinrai said as the man let out a sigh of defeat and sat back down. "Izuku, please, this man means no harm. Trust me please," he asked, pleading. The girl relented and sat down to where he pointed, with Mei standing next to her. "Thank you," Shinrai said before he started to explain. "You see, it was Sir here who gave me a chance in this company in the first place, even if it didn't sit right with any of the other employees or people on the board. Hell, most of them still don't like me, but the asset I am is now undeniable, and he was the man who gave me the chance." Izuku calmed at this and tilted her head to silently ask if he was trustworthy. Shinrai silently responded with partly. So Izuku decided to reveal her face and leave it there for the moment. She let Venom come back into her body, with the man letting out a small gasp and quite a few apologies for assuming her gender. Straight away they went back to negotiations. He wanted her to head up a specific subsidiary support company specifically for her designs, making them a reality. This let Izuku seamlessly introduce Mei and let her demonstrate her inventions, which brought to life a few of Izuku's many ideas, shocking both of the men there. They instantly wanted her in, but they technically couldn't as she was underage. However, they could have her as Izuku's partner, giving her total freedom as an inventor while not being subject to needing to hold a support license. As the meeting reached its hour mark and the details of Shinrai's technical promotion so he could monitor them just to be on the safe side, the older man's phone rang and a smile grew across his face however as soon as he brought it out. At this sight Izuku grew quiet and reserved, focusing on the ground. Her whole demeanor seemed to shift to that of a 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗃 servant being punished. Shinrai noticed this and decided to wait until after to ask about it. Meanwhile, the man connected his phone to a larger screen and started the video call. "Uncle David." Izuku gasped, snapping out of her stupor. "Izuku," the man yelled back from the screen. "Well, this makes things much easier," Shinrai commented offhandedly. "Izuku, what's going on? Why are you there?" "I had a meeting with the Mr. Venom." "Silly uncle, I'm not a Mr. Wait, what's going on? Izuku, please explain." "May," both men in the room and David asked at the same time. "Well, that's my uncle, David Shield. I haven't seen him in years as Toshinori never visits I-Island and well, I never had any way to keep contact with Melly, David's daughter, so we haven't spoken in a while." This raised red flags for both Shinrai and David. "And to answer you, uncle, I left home due to some issues and changed my name. Also, I got a quirk." She yelled as she remembered he didn't know yet. What followed was another catch-up session where the boss came to know more about Izuku's lineage and home life while David's knowledge on Izuku's childhood, or rather lack of one, grew exponentially. Needless to say, the two men were fuming by the end of it. "So you're telling me you've been gone for close enough to 3 weeks and they haven't even noticed?" David fumed. "Please don't tell them though, uncle. I'm happy and I don't want to go back to Izuku pleaded. "Fine, but you're coming to next year's Expo, when you no doubt will get into UA? I'll arrange 3 tickets." "3? Shinrai asked. "1 for you as a thank you and 2 for the girls. I want to meet the person who's grown so close to my niece so fast," David explained. "Of course, uncle. Could you not tell Melly till I get there though? I want it to be a surprise." "Sure, kiddo. Now what was the reason for this call anyways, apart from reuniting us?" "Oh yes, you wanted to partner with us to help build some of Izuku's more eccentric devices and mass-produce them to the world. I would see no problem then in a 50-50 split, especially with family." Someone called him from off-screen. "Sorry though, I have to go. Shinrai, please get my number though, I want to make sure those two stay safe, okay?" Shinrai nodded his head as the call ended. The boss stood up and excused himself as he had to go digest all of this. Is a much less fun environment, a board meeting to be precise. Once he left, Izuku and Mei got up to follow suit, but a glance from the man at the desk stopped them both as he gestured for them both to take a seat. "Izuku," when he pulled out his phone, "what happened?" Shinrai asked, very concerned. "Phone?" Izuku questioned. "Oh, the gray box which I'm not allowed to have. Sorry, I was told that I was too useless and pathetic. They also shouted at me whenever they were talking on one, so as soon as I see one I learn to put my head down and remain silent." Mei and Shinrai look at the girl sympathetically. They knew they couldn't even begin to imagine the hell she lived in, but they knew as sure as 1 + 1 is 2 they would do their best to help her. As these thoughts ran through their heads, Venom came out. "Kid, remember what we talked about?" Venom asked. "Yes, Venom. Sorry, Venom," Izuku replied meekly. "Kid, this isn't your fault, it's theirs. You have nothing to apologize for. Just remember you aren't useless, you're worth more than even your fake of a father." Izuku smiled at this, snapping the other two out of their revenge fantasies. Seeing her smile was enough for them, though it did give Shinrai an idea. Opening his desk drawer, he took out an older but still reliable phone, popping in one of the company SIMs. After a few minutes typing on his computer, he handed the phone to a shocked Izuku. "Here," he said, "all yours. It may not be the newest or fanciest, but it's served me well. Plus I've set it up so it's on the company but available for your personal use. I'm sure sir won't mind, especially since you're proving to be such a major asset, not to mention the impression you made on him. I wouldn't be surprised if he rejects any interaction with your parents as heroes from now on." Anyways, Izuku took the phone and started crying, scaring the two of them until Venom popped out. "Don't worry, these are happy tears. She can't say it, but she's very happy and thankful for the two of you," he said, showing off his toothy grin. The two headed out and back home, where Izuku set up the 2 futons together for her and Mei to sleep on, preparing a snack feast as well, since Mei managed to sneakily order a PC with an extra larger monitor specifically for watching movies with a very isolated teen. And watch they did. I mean, it's not like they even needed school anyways. Who does when you're set to become one of the richest people in the world? Izuku and Mei were both enjoying their more comfortable life, but life wasn't that nice to them, was it? It was a random chance encounter with her childhood 𝗵𝗃𝗲. He trapped some girl bullying her as she had a weak quirk, annoying the new more out of her shell Izuku off. Stepping in, she stopped him, but not before he set off an explosion in her face. The heat disrupted Venom and caused her to lost focus, shifting her form back into the towering, uncontrolled giant with a very off Venom in control. After scaring the boy half to death, she helped the girl who ran the moment she stepped out of the alley. On her way back, she discussed what happened with the explosion. Turned out Venom was weak to fire, high-frequency sounds, and electricity. He apologized profusely for forgetting to tell her even after all this time, but Izuku forgave him quickly, suggesting maybe Mei could look into a sample of the goop to try and fix it. In the end, it was very anticlimactic. Mei took one glance at the sample and smiled like a crazy person. She explained how Venom's genetic makeup was unstable, thus these forms of high energy basically tore him apart. Luckily, she had been working on a binding agent from Izuku's notebooks she had just finished and brought home with her. They injected it in Venom, and it instantly knocked the duo out as Venom formed a cocoon around the girl. Mei panicked at first but quickly calmed down and put it under the genetic metamorphosis the two were going under. Venom and Izuku's genetic structures were rearranging themselves to a perfect match for each other as the binding agent filled in the gaps. Or at least that's what she theorized. Though she wasn't wrong. Nearly 3 days later, Izuku broke out of the hardened goop only to be met with a near-hysteric Mei on a call to Shinrai and an apartment filled with packet food. Izuku calmed Mei down once she regained her sense of balance. Mei fell asleep as soon as a hug was given since she was too anxious to sleep since Izuku went away, at least that's how she saw it. Putting Mei on her back, covered by a Venom blanket, she set about calming a very worried Shinrai who had just been told what happened by a very hysteric Mei and cleaning the near-trashed apartment. Not that Izuku cared, she didn't know how much Mei was going through seeing her like this, so she didn't judge. After recovering from the little incident, Venom continued to train Izuku at the trashy beach, with them completely clearing it of the trash by the end of the month while picking out all the materials to be recycled by the company. Though Izuku's strength wasn't the only thing that grew over that PRD, an assortment of new powers also emerged, usually at the worst of times, or best depending on the way you looked at it. First off was Izuku's ability to absorb technology. After accidentally falling on a pile of Mei's failed inventions, they all vanished into the goop, causing the two to freak out, which caused Izuku to pull out a failed plasma cannon on instinct, letting it fire. Apparently, once she took it into her body, she subconsciously fixed it. In the end, it came out better than it went in. Next was Izuku's ability to shift her appearance. This one was more funny than anything else as Mei walked out of the shower to come face to face with Mei. After a lot of screeching and thrown mugs, the two managed to understand the new power, and Venom added it to her training plan. Finally was Izuku's regeneration. This one was a little more perilous. One of Mei's inventions was sabotaged by someone at the company, unnoticed by the two girls until they took it home. In the street, Izuku's enhanced senses caught on milliseconds before it exploded as she grabbed the backpack off the pink-haired girl and wrapped herself around it. The explosion would not have been big but enough to take everything out in a 10-meter radius. Mei would not stop crying at the sight of her bloodied friend, even after Izuku's holes had been fixed and the BLD was now safe on her insides. Mei wouldn't let go. It took a lot of ice cream and cuddles to finally stop her worrying. After reporting what happened to Shinrai, a small investigation was held. Everyone who had access to Mei's devices was looked into, and after calling in a favor from a detective with a lie detector quirk, a man who worked there for nearly 10 years was fired. This caused a lot of backlash, especially once the rumors started that it was Venom who ordered it, though Shinrai quickly put most of that to rest when he released the full truth with Izuku's express permission. All in all, the year and a bit passed without much incident as Izuku continued to rapidly gain absurd amounts of wealth from her ideas and products which were starting to be shipped out. Though neither of the two girls wanted to move out of the apartment for two reasons. One, they liked the beach view, and more importantly two, they couldn't be bothered. Training and running a small support company drained them both. Even Mei with her infinite energy would collapse on the fluffy green-haired girl immediately after dinner. In the end, as the 𝗬𝗧𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵 exams rolled around for the two of them, they were both overprepared, with 𝗵𝗃 using some of her more professionally assembled gadgets from which she built using company resources, while getting permission from Shinrai to use them for her support course exam. Izuku, on the other hand, had cleared the beach long ago and had moved back to the forest she used to live in for training, as she could utilize Venom's abilities freely without some hero coming along and trying to slap illegal quirk use charges on her. Izuku had actually decided to buy that area of the park anyways after she started carving out course to practice on, clearing it out and installing some traps set on random to avoid. Even Venom was impressed with her initiative, and now the two stood hand in hand in front of their dream school, Izuku covered in Venom, slightly taller than 𝗵𝗃 for once. Standing tall, seemingly calm, however, on the inside she was panicking at meeting her childhood bullies again, especially the ones who did that to her. She didn't even know if it was illegal, but she knew she never wanted to feel dirty in that way again. 𝗵𝗃, on the other hand, was literally buzzing in excitement, 3 gadgets in her bright pink backpack, eyes darting all around, focusing randomly on different aspects of the school's architecture, gently squeezing Izuku's hand whenever she tensed, which was a lot. "Ready to change the world, Izuku?" 𝗵𝗃 asked. "As ready as I'll ever be, 𝗵𝗃." Izuku/Venom said, managing to shake off her nervous stutter. Izuku and 𝗵𝗃 had split off before they entered the doors, both making their ways to different exam halls to take 2 different sets of written exams. After finishing, both made their separate ways to 2 different auditoriums, both finishing before everyone else and entering an empty room. 𝗵𝗃 was slightly disappointed when she couldn't see any teachers at the table in front of the stage. Frowning, she skipped her way over to the markers where people would stand waiting to put on a show for the judges. Not even 5 minutes later, 3 people walked in, still shocked that someone finished the 3-hour-long exam in under half the time. Hell, she finished faster than some of the hero and general studies students whose exams were considered easiest. The 3 teachers sat down at the table and gestured for 𝗵𝗃 to take the stage. Smiling like a madman, she pulled down her goggles and hopped up in one jump, opening her bag and laying all 3 devices out onto the table. After showing the schematics, explaining how they work, demonstrating them, the man wearing what seemed like a yellow digger exosuit raised his hand to ask some questions. "Well, the man started. 𝗵𝗃, call me 𝗵𝗃," she said casually, throwing off the question. "Sorry, but I would rather call you by your family name." The man persisted. "Oh well, that's a problem. Well, they disowned me and threw me out, so I technically don't have one anymore, though you could call me 𝗵𝗃 Venom if you want to." One of the others coughed on their coffee, spluttering as they looked incredulously at the pink-haired girl. "Well, that just adds to the other 2 issues, 𝗵𝗃," the man said, not believing she was related to one of the newest and richest support designers in the world. "First, if your family abandoned you, how did you get all these high-quality materials and machines needed to make some of that housing?" "Oh, that? Well, I was allowed by the company I work for. Do you have any proof?" Sure," 𝗵𝗃 yelled, pulling out her phone and dialing someone before jumping down towards the judge's table, standing next to the man questioning her validity as Shinrai picked up the phone on the other end. "Hey 𝗵𝗃, what's going on? I thought you had your exam today," the businessman asked, concerned. "Hello, Mr. the teacher asked Shinrai. "Who are you and why do you have 𝗵𝗃's phone?" "Well, Mr. Shinrai, I just wanted to ask if these devices in front of us made using your company resources were given permission to be here." "Which 3 did she bring?" "I haven't been able to see her latest works yet," Shinrai said, diverting the conversation. "Oh, Rai, you're going to love these," 𝗵𝗃 yelled out. "Once I got the work out of the prototypes, I managed to make them market ready. In fact, I'm sure once the team checks them over we can send them straight off to David for mass production." "Okay, can you 2 please stop?" the man said. "Mr. Shinrai, I'm 𝗵𝗃𝗺, one of the judges at her exam. Has she or has she not been allowed to use materials for her own personal use?" "Of course," Shinrai stated. "Without her, none of Venom's ideas would have become a reality." "Well, okay then, that you for your time," 𝗵𝗃𝗺 said, ending the call while the phone was still in 𝗵𝗃's hand. Coughing a bit to try and reassert his authority, he asked another question. "Okay, that settles the first issue. The next is, all of those designs are patented and held copyrighted by Venom. Have you been allowed to use them?" "Of course," 𝗵𝗃 said, now getting bored. "Again, do you have any proof?" 𝗵𝗃𝗺 asked, trying to trip the girl up. "Well, you can ask them if you want. They probably finished their exam by now if they haven't. No cuddles for them tonight." The man sat there in shock. Not only was the Venom here in his school, he was also not going for the support course. Plus it seems this girl has some sort of personal connection with him. He sat there flabbergasted until May called out to him from the door, tapping her foot impatiently. He got up and led her to the hero course auditorium where the place was slightly filled with fast-finishing examinees. Could Venom please come here? It's to do with another examinee's power loader called out, garnering weird glance from the hall. Sure, distorted voice rang out across the hall as a black mass suddenly flung itself into the air, landing with a thud in front of the two. Hi, I'm Venom, what's wrong? Power loader just looked on in shock at the person in front of him. The Venom, the designer extraordinaire, partners with the 𝗳𝗏𝗧𝗟𝗘 was standing right here. He froze and couldn't say anything. Hey Venom, I'm allowed to use any of your designs, right? May asked, getting impatient. Of course, why wouldn't you be allowed to? Izuku/Venom asked, tilting her head. Just this guy here, he had a lot of questions. May exclaimed, thanks though, I'll see if I can watch your practical, then we can head over to Rai and drop off these gadgets for testing, okay? You got it, May, Izuku/Venom said before jumping off. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗏's power loader managed to stutter out while being dragged off by the energetic pink-haired girl. Hey power loader, can I watch the hero practical exams with you? May asked. Sure, the man stuttered out as they re-entered the hall, and May packed away her gadgets, sitting next to the judges like a lost puppy waiting to see the hero exams. The support exams finished and power loader took the girl along with him to the hero practical exams, which had just started. Along the way he told her how her inventions were already beyond any industry standard. She smiled at that, and then she asked if she got in. He confirmed it. He also asked if they could negotiate the usage of some of the newer gadgets for the support course to help adapt the hero course costumes. May obliged and gave him Shinrai's number. Once the two arrived at the observation room, the teacher was questioned on who May was. He pushed them all off and told them she was his special guest who he just admitted to the support course, and she had asked to see someone during the hero exam. This got a few frowns from the teachers, who decided not to say anything as the man was one of the most logical teachers at UA behind Nizu and Aizawa, so any of his decisions were probably well made. After the little disagreement, Nizu decided that due to the mystery black-bodied student who they found out was called Venom, obliterating the school record, 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗏𝗧𝗏 record, it was time to have some fun, so he released the zero-pointer. And that's when the chaos started. Izuku had finished the hero exam in record time and made her way over to the next exam hall, opting to sit nearer the back and relax, tinkering with a few of the gadgets May couldn't get to work properly. The reason why she didn't just instantly fix them was simple: they were fixed up, but as such they fused with a bit of venom, and she couldn't let that get out, so she learned how to absorb something but not fuse with lit. Thankfully May had a lot of failed devices, not that her fail rate was high, more like her production rate was unthinkable. Izuku smiled at the thought of the pink-haired girl inventing, her erratic attitudes at the workbench, materials flying everywhere as she cobbled together something. The sparks as well were amazing. They seemed to ignite the spark in the girl's eyes, and it was mesmerizing to watch. But somehow, despite the inconsistent explosions and loud noise being around, May made her feel safe and happy. There was something else as well, but she couldn't quite place it. It was a feeling she had been dealing with for a while, and she debated asking her roommate about it because, although she was smart, at least that's what Venom, May and Shinrai told her, she sometimes struggled to understand things like emotions. May had to explain what was being happy and how to consciously smile. Then some man called out the name she went by. She looked up through the eye holes in her mask and saw May standing next to him. Thinking something was wrong, she made her way over to them through the air, landing right next to the two. After talking and clearing out any questions, Izuku jumped back to her seat only to find that her tormentors were in front of her. Instinctively she shrunk back into Venom, her control slipping bit as her body seemed to swell and grow a bit from the outside. One person noticed this, putting a scowl on his face. The presentation started and Mike tried to get the Quince to join in. Izuku would have participated, but she was quietly trying to get the ground to swallow her up as Venom tried to calm her down. It was working, but slowly, plus they didn't really need to listen to the man's presentation as the booklet had already given them all the info they needed. A blue-haired kid stood up halfway through the presentation, asking some obvious question about the zero-pointer, then turning to our little girl who had just managed to steal her nerves. And you there, stop using your quirk? It's disrespectful to both the school and anyone else who's here today. he yelled as Izuku felt all eyes fall on her and her anxiety returned as she felt the whole hall's gaze fell on her. She started to slip again as the goop swelled and grew again, causing some of the people to panic as it seemed that she was prepared to do something. She wasn't, but Venom definitely was, because this idiot had scared his bean first, so he's fair game. Venom shifted his face to Izuku's mask, trying his best not to let his teeth show. "Stop butting into other people's business, you blue mop top. For your information, I can't turn my quirk off, and when people like you draw my attention away from controlling my quirk, I do tend to start losing control, and trust me, if you could speak to the last person who did that, they would do anything they could to get you to be quiet." The boy froze at the harsh and deep voice of the symbiote and proceeded to sit down shakily as the rest of the hall quickly turned their attention back to the pro-hero up front. Even the 4 tormentors were terrified at the being behind them. Izuku quickly thanked Venom mentally, and he then spent the remaining time in the large hall and on top of the bus on the way to the site, calming the girl down. Though it didn't matter much, as the waiting area in front of the test ended up being a large crowd of students, which once again set off the poor girl's anxiety as she felt their gazes fall upon her from time to time. Venom internally sighed, though she made progress when she confronted the explosive 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗍 a while back, but it seemed she focused more on the victim than herself. So still anxious, she wandered around not wanting to stand still and be stared at, though this had the opposite effect as the now fuming blue-haired boy spotted her moving swiftly through the crowds. "Hey you," he tried to say, placing a hand on a nearly 6-foot goop-covered Izuku before being flipping onto the ground, leaving a reasonably sized crater. Izuku/Venom quickly spat out, "But please don't touch people, they might not like it," she said innocently enough. The gates opened slowly, and before the boy could reply, Izuku was off, leaving a small crater behind along with shouts of annoyed participants calling her out for cheating, which the man on the intercom quickly chastised them for. Darting between robots, Izuku quickly took them out with a punch through the head, no matter their point values, and while it seemed erratic and chaotic to the examinees, Izuku herself was systematically clearing out specific areas, being nice enough to leave enough points for others to actually stand a chance against other areas to get in. In all honesty, the teachers originally thought that the method was untamed, but Mei and Nizu both pointed out the true tactic, which caused most of them to gasp, but some specific teacher to let loose a grim smile. "Well then, I think it's time to release the 0-pointers," Nizu states ecstatically, "but sir, you said it was just a ruse." All-Might yelled out, "Sir, what about our daughter and their friends? What if they get hurt?" Green-Psycic countered, "Then they don't belong here." Izawa pushed back, "Plus, if they were to get hurt, I see that as an absolute win against what we think they've done to my favorite niece. And no, I didn't forget to do the part where they find out about Izuku's disappearance, but I felt it would be better as a flashback, as it took them quite a while to figure out she left. Hell, they didn't even figure it out. It was 𝗧𝗪𝗧 who asked for her to begin with." But more on that in the next chapter. "Indeed, 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪, now chaos," the Ratman exclaimed, pushing the big red button that ironically said "Do not push." In Izuku's area, the ground began to shake as part of the floor retracted, letting the large robot out of its steel cage. Kids saw this and ran with the excuse of not having the right quirk. Even some of the ones with the right quirk ran with the same reason, though through their panic they accidentally gathered in large groups in dead-end alleys. Izuku saw the robot rise and noticed the people hiding in between buildings. It didn't take a genius to figure out that if the robot caused the buildings to fall, then the people there would collapse. So she did the only logical thing and jumped through the robot's head, making a nice big hole as the machine sparked and groaned before falling back into its birthplace, dead. Izuku landed behind the large hole as the lower half of her body seemingly became a large amount of goop. Not that Venom needed to do that, but he would rather that than destroying any more pavement, and with that the exam ended. Cheers could be heard as the examinees erupted from their alleys and streets, all rushing up trying to hug and surround her. Not wanting it, she jumped up onto a building, this time no cracked pavement, as the people looked around sadly for their savior. In the observation room there was panic. Nizu had brought up Izuku's ID, and it came up with the name Venom, Quirk Venom. This set off alarm bells in the Chimera's head as an alias, but what got everyone else on edge was that the Venom was here at their school, not going for the support department but rather the hero one. Mei, however, pouted before glumly saying, "They promised they would at least try to push themselves this time." This caused all the teachers to freeze as the fact came in that the being who had crushed All Might's record and brushed the zero-pointer off like a bug wasn't even trying. "I mean, you are?" All Might asked her, to which she ignored since her opinion of him and his wife dropped significantly since Izuku had told her the story. "This is May. I've already enrolled her in UH today based on the actual invention she has. It also seems she has some sort of connection to our mysterious friend down there. 𝗵𝗃 stated. Well, 𝗵𝗃 started May. Just May. She replied cheerfully. 𝗵𝗃 took the hint. Well then May, what's your relationship with Venom? Why would I tell you? She asked, tilting her head, a habit she got from Izuku. I've just met you and none of you really have my trust. Heh, fair enough, but do tell me, is Venom a villain? 𝗵𝗃 asked as the room full of muttering fell silent. Venom a villain? May then burst out laughing. They couldn't be evil if they tried. Oh God, they're the most innocent person I've ever met. 𝗵𝗃 smiled at this, seemingly enough of an honest reaction to placate any worries before another question came to mind. Do tell me, is there a person under that or have they become that goop? Oh no, Venom has a real body. They wear their quirk as protection though, May said as her mood shifted. The world isn't a nice place. This set off alarm bells in his head. I see. Would you be able to tell us anything else about them, maybe their gender or true name? Confused mumbles came from across the room as the principal had pretty much announced the most promising candidate was using a fake ID. Nope, I think that's enough questions for today, the pink-haired girl said, making her way out of the room to meet up with the person in question. But, because you don't know or you don't want to tell. Oh, I know very well, we don't hide much from each other, but tell me, what have any of you done to earn mine or Venom's trust? If anything, I should hate you for the company you keep. She hinted at before disappearing from sight. Once she had left, the room was in uproar, though a hobo teacher and 𝗵𝗃 were having a little conversation silently about some definite red flags that had popped up during that very short conversation. With a nod, the principal sent his favorite teacher to try and intercept the two before they left. Luckily, by the time he made it to the gate using his special methods, he could see the two making their way out. He tried to make conversation with them as he tagged along, but most of it was shut down by May. He gave up in the end due to the weird aura coming off the blackened figure of Izuku and just told Izuku that they had made it into the hero course as the year's representative with the highest points, then headed home as he long since realized the two were walking in circles. Once the man was defiantly gone, May climbed on Izuku's back and the two dashed home, where they set aside all inventing and designing for the night and had an ice cream movie marathon, with lots of chocolate and tater tots for a very happy symbiote. The clock struck midnight and two people opened their eyes, 𝗳𝗏𝗃 awake by instinct only. Izumi Yagi looked over at her clock, only to see the date and groan. 1 year, she mumbled. Exactly 1 year since she disappeared, making the best day of my life the worst. Flashback, happy birthday. A group of adults yelled as they jumped out in surprise as Izumi walked through the door. Where's Izuku? Aizawa asked. No idea, she's been off ill for a bit though. The girl honestly replied, earning a frown from the two uncles in the room. Well, I haven't heard anything from her room. Maybe she's sleeping. Izumi suggested, sitting down in front of her presence. This struck 𝗵𝗃 and 𝗧𝗱𝗏 as off. First, neither parent mentioned anything about Izuku being home or being quiet. Second, they didn't even address the issue of their daughter missing out on a seemingly unknown amount of school. And thirdly, their presence had seemingly accumulated into one pile somehow, all of which was in front of the only teenage girl in the room. 𝗧𝗱𝗏, why don't we check on your favorite niece? 𝗵𝗃 suggested, shooting a glance with his statement. But I'm right here. Izumi innocently asked. Sure, 𝗵𝗃, I have another present physically for her, 𝗧𝗱𝗏 said, glancing at Izumi, who had suddenly gained a weird look on her face. The two ignored the words of Inko and Toshinori, making their way up to Izuku's room, though they both stopped in front of it as they were hit with a very unsettling smell. Izuku, are you in there? 𝗧𝗱𝗏 asked, knocking at the door, receiving nothing but silence. 𝗵𝗃 got a bit worried. Izuku, it's your favorite uncle 𝗵𝗃, are you in there? I've got a chess set and some lovely tea with me if you want to play. Again, nothing but silence and noises from downstairs were heard. 𝗵𝗃 nodded at the hobo to his right and 𝗧𝗱𝗏 gently eased the door open, earning silent squeaks as the door swung open slowly and the stench grew. The two men slowly stepped into the dark room and physically gagged at the horrific blend of bleach, antiseptics, BLD and cheap makeup fumes. The black-haired man fumbled for the lightest 𝗬𝗍𝗍, stumbling over some papery and crisp things before finding it and flicking it on. The two blanched at the bloody's room in front of them. Everywhere there were dried bloody bandages, all stained brown, covering up the entirety of the floor. The bed itself was fit for only a small child, and it was blaringly obvious how old it was. The cinder block acting as one of its supports and the sight of rotting wood were just horrifying. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 thought he had a good stomach for these kind of things due to his area of work, but this was worse than his worst nightmare, and it was happening to his favorite niece as well. As such, the man couldn't hold it in and ran over to the bin in the room, throwing up into even older and crustier bandages. Once relieved, 𝗧𝗪𝗧 started to GG again at the sight of 𝗵𝗃𝗃 mixed with the age-old gauzes below him. Stumbling back, he hit the desk of the room. In actual fact, the desk was simply a piece of old rotting wood stacked on top of 4 tires, 2 at each point acting like pillars. As he hit the desk, though, he knocked the sole item on it onto the floor. 𝗵𝗍𝗃 finally snapped out of his shocked state due to the bang and wandered over, still taking the situation in. Leaning down, he opened the book on the floor to the first page. He was confused to be met with the same phrase, over and over repeated in slightly unnerving neat handwriting. Must stay clean, dirty is bad, clean is good. Frowning, he flipped forwards a few pages and again and again. He kept flicking forward as his frown deepened, and you could see tears start to fall from his beady little eyes. 𝗍𝗍𝗃, 𝗧𝗪𝗧 asked, lifting his head up from the bin. What's wrong? I don't think Izuku WW is okay. What do you mean was? This book, it isn't a diary, it isn't anything healthy, it's just a phrase, a very worrying phrase, repeated again and again. It became more erratic with every page. 𝗧𝗪𝗧, I think Izuku was slowly going insane. What? How? Surely Inko and Toshinori would have noticed. Maybe they were the cause. You know how Inko prides herself with cleanliness. So you're saying what exactly? The most likely scenario. She committed suicide. She couldn't take whatever was going on with all of this. He waves his left paw around the room, while clutching the book with his right paw. And that's the more positive outcome. More positive. What the F is worse than suicide? Becoming a villain. The room became silent at this. 𝗍𝗍𝗃 looked down at the book in his hands while 𝗧𝗪𝗧 picked up the phone and made a quick call. Though it wasn't long before the inhabitants of the house decided to come check up on them. 𝗧𝗪𝗧, 𝗍𝗪𝗃, are you guys? Oh my god, what's that smell? Inko, 𝗧𝗪𝗧 deadpanned at his friend's wife at the door. Care to explain? What even is this? This, Inko, is Izuku's room. Care to explain? 𝗧𝗪𝗧, I had no idea about this. Honestly. I am well aware of that, Inko. You and your currently wordless husband obviously knew nothing about this. 𝗍𝗪𝗃 stated coldly, which Inko managed to ignore. See. But where's Izuku? Why is her room so disgusting? I keep having to tell her to stay clean and, shut up. Sorry. Inko replied, you two disgust me. This room alone describes what exactly happened. Well, at least what happened inside this house. How she got injured so much is another issue, but for now, Izumi yelled from downstairs. Uncle Suki's at the door. Send him up. The man in question walked up to the room, visibly gagging like the other 4 who and previously walked in. 𝗧𝗪𝗧, the detective acknowledged the hobo. You called me here and asked for both. I would ask if everything's okay, but I can tell otherwise. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 nodded and grabbed both flasks from the man, before gesturing for him to follow as she shakenly left the room. Inko, Toshinori, I believe you should follow. The two shakily nodded and followed as 𝗍𝗪𝗧 turned back to the room. Once more being able to think properly, he remembered the amazing analysis Izuku had done, and there was a high chance those uncoded dangerous books were still in this room. Of course, he had tried to teach Izuku the importance of encoding them and how to do so, but a few visits a year was not enough time, especially when it was usually for only an hour or so. In fact, he couldn't even remember the last time he spent a full birthday with Izuku in his presence, just snippets. Shaking off the suspicions he placed on himself, his beady little eyes darted around the room, settling on a seemingly clear patch of floor. He hummed to himself in excitement as he scurried of and examined the spot, intimately looking for some sort of complex opening mechanism or elaborate trap he came to expect from someone of Izuku's intelligence. though he stopped quickly when he looked back of the room of a desperate person, logically concluding it was more likely to be something incredibly basic, a red herring for people who knew her and wanted those books. So he filled with the floorboards and managed to pry one loose. Underneath was the treasure trove he had been searching for. Smiling to himself, he placed the, as had dubbed it, insanity notebook, into the secret compartment and made a mental note to get 𝗧𝗱𝗃 to steal them later. Wiping the last tear on his face, he headed down to start the interrogation of the 3 remaining Yagis and ready to tear anything down to get his favorite niece back. Flashback end, Izumi's fist balled up thinking of all the questions that day. She had, by some miracle, managed to avoid being found out about her sisterly abuse, though she did plan on giving her sound reasoning if she was discovered. Surely Uncle Nizu and Uncle 𝗧𝗱𝗃, the 2 most logical people on the planet, would understand, right? Oh, how wrong she could be. Though it didn't come without consequences, her recommendation from her dad was removed, plus when Endeavor heard of Nizu's suspicions, mixed with his own children's indirect responses, he too removed his recommendations. This meant that all 4 were forced to sit the normal exam and encounter that, in their words, monster in black. Izuku, on the other hand, was reliving her neglected and abused childhood. It was always worse on her birthday. She actually had a chance at happiness, but all that it did was make her situation hurt more. The comparison with how her uncles treated her for that short time compared to her normal life was torturous. It didn't end there though. She was able to look at the presents that should have been for her, but in the end, everything ended up being Izumi's. The neglect, as she knows it now, was much more obvious on those days, and the voices were much louder as well. This year, although better, still hurt. May though clutched tighter to the smaller girl, and she unconsciously felt her tense, causing Izuku to smile and snuggle back up with her best friend. A warm feeling swelling up in her 𝗧𝗵𝗃. Venom, however, was fuming. He knew this day was bad for her, yet she was too kind-hearted to let anyone know she was hurting. Hell, she hadn't even told anyone her birthday. May kind of forgot to ask about it, but neither of them blamed her. It just made May more May. This didn't make Venom any less angry at the Yagis though. He felt what Izuku did. They were bonded for better and for worse. This also included Venom's planning skills soaring through the roof. So the rest of the night leading up to the morning of the Yagi twins' birthday, Venom planned, he schemed, and by the time the sun rose, he finally felt satisfied with the imaginary deaths of those who hurt his most precious being. Izuku stood in front of Class 1A's massive door, shaking inside Venom. Kid, I could make us look intimidating. Venom suggested, but Izuku shook her head. Well, we could call in sick. Again Izuku shook her head. How about we stay in the ceiling, then you won't have to deal with that shouting or those people. There was no movement from Izuku before she slowly nodded and Venom pointed her to a nearby vent. Izuku reached out with her venom-covered hand as the goop itself shot out, grabbing onto the grate, silently moving it from the wall, allowing Izuku's goop-covered form to leap through the small gap into the space above the classroom, replacing the cover behind her. Though Izuku, being the child genius she is, realized that whoever the homeroom teacher is wouldn't know where she was, so she tore a page out of her notebook and slipped it onto the desk, while that blue-haired boy fought with Bakugo and Yagi. Settle down. The voice caused everyone to shut up and quickly get into their seats as a sleep-deprived hero made his way into the classroom. That noise was illogical. I expect better from you all. The class nodded. And you 4, you know who you are. Be glad I'm not counting this a strike against you. This caused the 4 tormentors to gulp, which somehow went unnoticed by everyone. Izuku though finally recognized the man and gasped, her emotions stuck between happiness and fear. Even Venom was at a loss for what to do. 𝗧𝗱𝗃 looked down at his desk before looking back up at the class. Since you're all here and quiet, I'll begin. The blue-haired boy raised his hand. Yes, Ida. Sir. It seems we are missing one classmate. That you are not. Venom, please make yourself known. Okay, Izuku/Venom said as she popped her head into the classroom from above. Hi. The room was silent for a second before several of the people in the room screeched and fell back off their chairs, pushing themselves away from the newly introduced student. Hi, Venom. 𝗵𝗲𝗄 cheerfully called from her seat. 𝗵𝗲𝗄. Izuku/Venom yelled, causing said girl to smile more. How are you? How's your parents? How's your training? Are you doing okay? Venom, the black-haired girl, chuckled. I'm fine, you don't have to worry about me anymore. Oh yeah, why did everyone scream when they saw me? Well, why? I'll tell you why. 𝗵𝗃 yelled, it's because you're a monster. You're a ugly scary monster who fell from the ceiling. Your quirk is so villainous you shouldn't even be here. Go back to the streets where silence. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 cut the boy off. Izuku/Venom stated, I didn't think it was an issue. You're a purple grape. There's a black bird, an octopus, a frog and a cool-looking pink alien. So I thought I'm sorry. She finished as she pulled her head back into the ceiling, replacing the panel behind her. Both black-haired people glared at the grape in the room, though 𝗵𝗲𝗄 was the one to speak up first. Who agrees with this midget? She asked, only to receive hands up from half the class. Well, you prejudiced idiots, I'll have you know that monster is in fact one of, if not the most influential and powerful person in Japan. Their designs have revolutionized the hero industry. Though that's just the tip of it, they themselves are one of the most kind, caring and kindred souls I have ever met. If anything, and I mean anything, were to happen because of those words, I would hold all of you who raised your hands accountable and your lives would be ruined before they even started. Am I clear? The class nodded swiftly as 𝗵𝗃 was silently his at this revelations. He just insulted the wrong persona and it seems there will be hell to pay later. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 nodded at the girl's statement and confirmed the school itself holds a zero-tolerance policy on bullying for any of the courses, before telling them to make their way to the field for a quirk test. The class just stood there staring confused. I said get changed now. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 yelled. The class immediately jumped up and bolted, quickly making their way towards the field. First Izuku's disappearance case starts eating at me, now I've got a problem child who hides in the ceilings. He rubs his eyes, grumbling even more. I can't hold it against them though, the amount of red flags is just crazy and their design started out similar to Izuku's, at least Nizu thinks so. But really, being called a monster, I can see it now that boy has he froze hearing some sort of sound from above. Frozen he tried listening out for it again, only to hear nothing. Great, now I'm hearing things. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 grumbled, opening up a window and leaning out but stopping himself when he heard the sound again. This he could tell it was in the ceiling. Frowning he jumped up onto his desk and removed one of the ceiling panels, slowly edging his head into the area above his classroom. Even he was shocked by the sobs he heard up there. Kid, calm down, please, you know he didn't mean it, Venom called out. Venom, how can you heard him, I'm just a problem. Izuku/Venom yelled back, kid, please, I'm sure he's just tired and stressed. Yeah, and I'm the reason, Venom, why do I hurt everyone around me? She sobbed. Frowning even more, the hobo man shifted his weight carefully onto his hands, pushing down as his body moved upwards into the ceiling, laying on his stomach to fit in the tight area before crawling towards his emotionally unstable student. Kid, come on, we've talked about this. May and Rai have told you. You don't hurt anyone, in fact you help everyone you meet. What about Ponytail, How much did you help her? Anyone could have done that, she mumbled back, yet it was you that did it, so please kid, it isn't your fault. But I caused him so much trouble, I'm just a problem. Kid, please don't, I know what you're thinking and feeling, remember, what would May do without you? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 froze, first day of school and this is happening already, no please, he hoped, not another one he couldn't save. I'm sorry Venom, you're right. Kid, what have I said, this isn't your fault, please remember that. But it's getting worse, you should at least tell one of them that you're okay. I want to, but what if they take me back, take me away from May? Venom, I don't want to go back. 𝗧𝗵𝗲's heart broke at this, his student, afraid of someone not because they were bad but because they might accidentally hurt them. Kid, I'm sure those two would understand. Plus I think your decision's been made already, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 is already in here with us. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 choked at this, gasping at the stale air. And oh no, Venom. Please, I just want to help, Izuku pleaded, and oh, go away. Kid, come on, you've got to, you can't hide forever. But what if he send me back? I promise kid, I won't let him, plus you really think May and Rai would just stand by? Fine. Venom. Who's that with you? Izuku asked, drawing close enough for his now significantly smaller, goop-covered student to emerge. Hi sensei, Izuku/Venom started before letting the goop fall off her face. Or rather, hi uncle. Aye Izuku. The man cried out, pushing himself forward attempting to pull the girl into a hug, only for her to lurch backwards as she got Venom to cover her again. The man's eyes widened as he understood what he did. Izuku, I'm so sorry. And no, it was me, I'm sorry. Izuku, please for once, just let me take the blame, okay? Okay, thank you, we need to get to the field for the quirk test, can we talk about everything later? Izuku nodded her goop-covered head. Okay, that's good, do you think you can do those tests? Izuku shook her head. What about if you had some time beforehand to relax? Izuku froze for a minute then nodded. Okay then, do you want to get into my sleeping bag, provided you don't break it, okay? There was silence for a moment before the girl nodded her head viciously, so fast it scared the hobo man. Though as she crawled into the sleeping bag, she poked her head out and asked for one favor, which 𝗧𝗪 instantly agreed to. The two were silent as the man carried his lost niece in his sleeping bag to the field filled with teenagers ready to test the limits of their powers. Outside on the field, the students of Class 1A were huddled up waiting nosily until a black-clothed figure walked by them carrying a yellow sleeping bag that seemed to bulge. Their sensei walked past them, silencing them as he paid them no regard, walking over to a small patch of grass and a tree, laying the bag down gently. He turned back to the class and snapped his fingers. They all ran to line up as he came close to inspect them all. Alright, now that you are all here we can begin. The man stated, first I will explain then you can ask questions. So first welcome to 𝗧𝗵𝗃, the ones of you who survive anyways. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 as a school provides freedom to teach freely, meaning I can do things like this and pull you out of that horrible assembly and get an understanding of your physical and quirk skill levels. Though I would advise you all to put you all into this, seeing as the one in last place will be expelled. What? Most of the class screamed back before they became a babbling group of unorganized monkeys. Silence. The man called out as they followed, good, now in a civilized manner, questions? A few students raised their hands, yes, 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏. Sir, this isn't fair, we worked so strong to get in and we could lose everything on the first day. The girl called out, fair. Let me tell you something. I have 3 years to produce amazing heroes, ones that won't die. The world isn't fair, life isn't fair, and death isn't fair. So I will not have your deaths on my conscience simply because you wanted me to play fair. So you all better understand this, that entrance exam was your first test of many, every day will be a fight to stay, so I suggest you take everything I say seriously. Yes, 𝗧𝗪. What are we missing out on in the assembly? A reasonable question, honestly. Mental torture. The principal holds that to mess with everyone, so let me tell you, you all would be doing good if you never cross him. Though you guys might not fare much better at the end of my physical tests. Yes, 𝗧𝗪𝗧. You said quirks. Does that mean we can freely use them, unlike at our old schools? Indeed, I find that playing on a level playing field is illogical. Every one of you is unique, as such you all are not at the same place, physically or otherwise. As such, it is ridiculous to remove the aspect of quirk training and is something I've been advocating for quite a while now. Yes, Ida. That's it. You said everyone was here, the boy robotically waved about his arms, but we are once again missing Venom. That we are not. Venom is currently over there in my personal sleeping bag. It seems that your comments as future classmates did more damage than they let on, so let this be your one and only warning. Pull anything, and I mean anything, like this again and I won't hold 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 back from ending any hope of your carers. Yes, Kaminari. Why does everyone keep referring to Venom as they slash them? Surely it's he/him. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 just sighed. That is a very good question, I don't have an answer but someone here might. He said, looking at the black-haired girl, gesturing for her to continue. Well, Venom hasn't had the best life up until now. They trust very few people with anything, including their first name. If you are lucky enough like me to get even that, then count yourself special. Hell, I know of 3 people who know about their true face among other things. In summary, Venom doesn't trust easily and has very good reason not to, so I suggest not pushing them. Thank you. Yes, Bakugo. Why is the 𝗵𝗃 sleeping and not doing the tests? Are they scared? First off, no. As I said, your words and actions have greater impact than you see, although you would have learned at least that much by now. Second, this is for your safety as well, at least from the exams. Their brief display of power made even Nizu uneasy, as such they will perform their tests last and independently. I warn you all now to not hold yourselves to Venom standards. You will, without a shadow of a doubt, be crushed, understood. He received nods from all around. Good, now let's begin. The class performed their physical test, each one mixing up the way people thought, moved and acted. At the end, every single person without a doubt was exhausted on the ground, even the 4 tormentors who pushed past their limits to try and crush Venom's score when they got it. 𝗧𝗪 all moved them towards the area where Izuku was resting, inside both Venom and the sleeping bag. As 𝗧𝗪 came close, Izuku pulled the zip down and slid out, using the goop to hide anything natural about her, as she appeared to hold no physical form, an easy feat for her smaller stature. Though once she was clear of the bag, she let Venom take over and grow to that monstrous size, looming over everyone, including Shoji, staring them down from her ridiculous, Venom-controlled height. Venom, why are you trying to scare them? 𝗵𝗲𝗄 asked her, slightly shaking. They wanted a monster. This is what one looks like, Izuku/Venom said in a gruffer than normal voice before the goop started shifting and contorting back down into the smaller but still very tall and lean shape, about the height of the ponytailed girl this time. But I'm not a monster, just a very powerful and smart person, at least that's what everyone tells me. Venom, please show them what you can do. 𝗧𝗪 said, snapping the others out of their shock-induced paralysis. Sure, sensei. Izuku/Venom chirped before absolutely demolishing the tests. She broke past and every record with her pure physical strength, even managing to score an infinity on the ball throw, leaving everyone stunned. Wow, you're so lucky to have such an awesome quirk. Ishido called out. Quirk? Izuku/Venom asked, tilting her head. Though this was just a physical test. No way, that was seriously. Venom, 𝗧𝗪 picked up. Are you telling me that all of this, he gestured to the destroyed field and students on their butts, was all you? Izuku nodded and 𝗧𝗪 let out a groan. Well, students, as you can see, there is a large gap in between you and the top student, so train strong. Oh, and before I forget, these are the results. It's illogical to call them out. The man displayed the results, with Izuku coming in first, followed by her sister, then 𝗵𝗲𝗄, then the rest of the tormentors, with one purple-haired midget coming in last, letting out a demolished cry. Pack your bags, 𝗵𝗃. I was going to transfer you to Gen Ed with a possibility to return, but your comments just show how you have no right to be here, and unlike some lucky others, you don't have a benefactor to smooth things over. So scram. The purple-haired midget ran off crying as none of the class attempted to follow him. His perverted act in the changing room was enough to garner his own hate club. The rest of the class, however, made their way back to the classroom to gather their syllabuses and hold introductions. Most came and went, with the 4 tormentors leaving out some minor details, like their suspected crimes, their forced therapy, and the disappearance of one sister. Though said sister abuser did state she wanted to be a hero for someone, Venom silently scoffed at that blatant lie. Then it was Izuku's turn. Hi. I'm Venom. My quirk is called Venom, and apparently I'm one of the richest people in Japan. I like Mei, 𝗵𝗲𝗄, and Rai, plus coming up with new support ideas. I've also been shown lots of pre-Quirk Disney and DreamWorks movies which I love. I don't like certain people from my past, and I'm still learning how to use a phone properly. Any questions? Venom. Ida yelled, putting his hand up, not waiting for an answer. It isn't professional to hide things from your future classmates. Please reveal yourself properly and give us a real introduction. This garnered a sharp glare from the mother figure in the room. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I don't really trust any of you. That's preposterous. We will be your classmates for the next 3 years. Why are you so scared to show your face? The world isn't a nice place, Ida. I had to learn that, so I'm really sorry if my personal choice offends you. My AP Ida, I think it would be best to shut up now, don't you? 𝗵𝗲𝗄 asked as she faced the boy with her eyes closed, smiling. Gulp yes, I suppose you would be right. The class then broke down into genders as the girls set up a little group chat with each other, and Izuku was called over by Kirishima, who complimented Izuku on her manly scores, which caused Izuku to tilt her head, and the hardening boy had to explain what he meant as the girl nodded with understanding. Though as soon as she could, she broke away from them and made her way over to the girls, notebook appearing out of nowhere as she gingerly waved to get 𝗵𝗲𝗄's attention. Izuku made her way silently over to the 1A girls. Silently, 𝗵𝗲𝗄 saw and smiled at the nervous girl. She breathed in and stopped shaking, drawing closer to the group. not really taking in who was actually there. Hi Venom, did you want something? 𝗵𝗲 asked, yeah, there are some words I don't understand, and Izuku/Venom replied, calmer than usual. Why? What do you think you're doing? A female voice shouted out, drawing attention to her, can't you see we're in the middle of something? Izuku/Venom turned to look at the voice and was met with the face of her ex-sister, the one she could never escape, even in her own home. What cat got your tongue? Izumi sneakily snapped back, Yagi, that's not nice. Venom came over here to ask me a question. That's no reason to be mean, 𝗵𝗲 stated, taking her eyes off of her friend. Well, he isn't welcome here at the moment. It isn't exactly a good time for him. Shoka stated in her usual monotone voice. 𝗵𝗲 growled, causing the rest of the girls to flinch back. I'll make this clear, Venom is not a he or she until they decide to trust us all enough. You all aren't exactly making that easier, you know. Still, even though Yagi's attitude was a bit sharp, Venom was interrupting as she stated, raising her hand to her cheek. Shuai, they didn't come over shouty or loud, they came over quietly to talk to a friend. 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗟 yelled back, and you all want to degrade that. What if it was something important, huh? They might be scared and were looking for comfort. You all weren't exactly welcoming. Yeah, but it's not like they introduced themselves properly, dropping from the ceiling and scaring us. 𝗬𝗍𝗀𝗧𝗏 snapped back, girls. 𝗔𝗨𝗧𝗟 yelled as they all turned to her. First off, 𝗬𝗍𝗀𝗧𝗏, you have no room to talk. You've scared us all at least once, and it's only the first day. Second, Venom obviously isn't social, so why would they walk into the room filled with 3 yelling idiots? Third, it doesn't even matter anymore. They left. And honestly, I'm disgusted with you all, so bye, I'm going to apologize. Yeah, I'm with 𝗔𝗨𝗧𝗏. 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗏 yelled out, and if that's how you treat your classmates, then to you I'm 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗏, not 𝗵𝗃. Wait, but you said, Izumi spluttered out, first impressions are everything, and as far as I can see you're all the thing I hate, bullies. Come on 𝗔𝗨𝗧𝗏, let's find Venom. The pink girl then grabbed 𝗔𝗨𝗧𝗏's hand and took off, heading towards the door leading into the corridor. 𝗵𝗲 then started clapping as the rest of the girls turned to her. Well done, you all just screwed up any chance of anything with 4 of your classmates on your first day, 𝗵𝗲 calmly stated as she stood up to make her exit. You know people like you are the reason villains exist. Just be glad Venom couldn't be a villain in anyone's worst nightmares. Yeah, and what about you? Izumi yelled to the girl who was leaving. I bet everything was handed to you on a silver platter, huh? You're in the same boat as us. 𝗵𝗲 froze, back still turned as the classroom quietened down. Actually no, you're probably better off than all of us, rich parents buying you into the school, buying you whatever you want, paying into Shoto's life. Hell, I bet you've had plastic quirk surgery to look like that, you skank, so don't paint us in a bad light when you sure as hell are in the same boat as us. There was silence before the black-haired girl continued moving out of the classroom, seemingly unfazed by the green-haired girl's comments. After she left, the classroom broke down into chaos. Outside the room was a different story. Next to the door, 3 figures were slumped back against the wall, staring at the teary-eyed, red-faced girl who had just left the classroom. Izuku jumped up and immediately wrapped her in a hug, whispering calming thoughts into her ears, trying to calm her down and overcome the other voices. Once the tears stopped, the 2 sat back down against the wall with the other 2, in a peaceful but boring silence until 𝗵𝗃 got bored. So Venom, what do you do for fun? Fun? Oh, the thing you do to be happy. Well, I like training and designing. 𝗵𝗃 pouted, that's not fun, that's work. Like, what do you do to relax? I cook and bake. Yeah, I also like to cuddle with May and watch animated movies. Animated? Well, like before Quirks, the action scenes used to be made with the help of a computer adding in effects, but there were also things that were like fully drawn out, so all the effects were put in easily. So like a moving drawing. Exactly. I like them much more than any current movies. Wow, you've got to show us sometime. Sure, May always said I should bring some friends home so we can talk to more people. Sorry to interrupt, 𝗔𝗨𝗧𝗏 butted in, but who's May? May's a support corps student at UA, a first year like us. We're best friends, we live, sleep, eat, design, and even build together. Oh, 𝗵𝗃 said, wiggling her eyebrows. So how does May make you feel then? Safe. Oh, and happy. She actually helped me understand that. But there's also something else, I don't know what. Oh, maybe it's Venom, you wanted to ask me something? 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗵𝗲. But Momo, we aren't in public at school, so you can call me Izuku. Then stop calling me 𝗵𝗵𝗃, you've more than earned the right to my first name, she pouted, then call me Mina. The pink girl yelled out, why not? 𝗬𝗂𝗁's not a bad thing to be called as well, the punk rock chick mused. So anyways, Izuku, you wanted to ask me something. 𝗵𝗵𝗃 continued. Yeah, some of the boys said some words I didn't understand. Could you tell me what they mean? Sure, go on. Izuku nodded, pulling out her notebook out of nowhere. So yeet, YOLO, AO, but, tips, pung, PP, screw you, don't worry about it, most of those from memes on the internet. Slightly sweating at all the words coming out of her mouth, memes. Like jokes made online that lots of people look at and reference in the real world. Thank you. A sharp ringing occurs above them as everyone but Izuku covers their ears to try and stop the sound. As it finished, Izuku got up. I've got to go, the principal wanted to see me, so I'll see you tomorrow, bye. Bye Izuku. The three said in unison as the goop-covered girl walked off. They said nothing as they watched her walk away and turn the corner. Momo, details now, 𝗬𝗂𝗃 stated. About what? The girl tried to throw them off. I'm sure we can talk about this later, right? No, Mina stated. We need to know a few things, Momo sighed and gestured for them to continue. In the end, the two girls knew as much as Momo did, about how she was neglected and abused by everyone, even her own family. She was younger, she ran away and lived on the streets. Eventually joining the company and using her ideas to make a splash. Finding May being thrown out, then the two becoming roommates. Momo expressly forbid Mina from shipping Izuku and May, pointing out that Izuku still didn't properly understand most emotions. Mina reluctantly agreed and the three made their way home. The other two did try and find out who hurt their precious bean and find out about some sort of surprise Momo had for them about Izuku's quirk, but Momo didn't know any specifics about the abuse or neglect, and no one but Izuku and Venom knew about the 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗧𝗏 and Katsuki forgot. Since she was the first but not the last, the rest weren't put in the same situation though. In the end, the two gave up and bid the Rick girl goodnight, making their way home as Izuku was still in school, finishing up the meeting with her favorite uncle. Izuku made her way towards her uncle's office, internally panicking about her current situation. Sure, Shota and Nizu always treated her right, but they were never there for her when she needed them, plus there was a high chance they would just send her back to the Yagis. They might take away her money she needed to live, they might get her removed from her company. They might imprison Rai, they could take Venom away from her, they could kill 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗲. Izuku started hyperventilating as these thoughts rushed through her head as she started to lose control over the symbiote covering her, causing it to swell and grow as said symbiote was trying his best to calm her spiraling mind down. Honestly, he was close to Izuku, but May helped more in these situations. Turns out though that copious amounts of flying saucers can just about manage to do the same job. So Venom had to break into the emergency stash stored in the goop, allowing the girl to calm down for what would be a very troublesome meeting. By the time she reached the door, Venom and the flying saucers had managed to calm her down to a reasonable level. So she knocked and entered once prompted, coming face to Goop Face with her favorite uncle and the one who knew her identity. Venom, the tired teacher, greeted Sensei. She replied, "Are you going to do it or am I?" No one. She replied hopefully. Fine then. The man's eyes went red and he stared into the soul of our most innocent being, though nothing happened. Gore, a mutation quirk. Or maybe Nizu peeked up, not a quirk at all. The two in the room look over to him, Shota in silent bafflement while Izuku was discussing her safety over Venom's mentally. The two came to the conclusion that it would do more harm than good to hide things from Nizu, especially since if they revealed it, they would have the upper hand for now. Izuku let the goop fall off of her as she stared into the wide eyes of her favorite uncle. "Hi uncle, so sorry." She seemed to ask as the rodent was frozen in shock. "You," he brokenly stuttered out before bursting into tears and leaping towards his lost niece, only for her to dodge as he got close, causing him to crash into the floor. The girl started apologizing rapidly as the white-furred principal glanced at Shota, who nodded in agreement to everything. "Uncle." The girl seemed to ask, "Are you okay?" "Izuku, I should be asking you that and apologizing. We didn't know, I didn't know. Your silence, your tepidness, your flinching, your disappearances. I thought you were just shy not being abused and neglected. Uncle, it's fine, you didn't know, but what are you going to do now? Are you going to send me back? Take away my money and inventions. My movies. Venom. Rodent chuckled, waving his paw to let Izuku calm down. First off, you won't have to go back ever. I promise you that. Second, you will at some point have to tell us what happened fully. Izuku nodded slowly. Third, I would never take away anything you earned fairly, and none of those people from your past have any claim to it, no matter what they say if they find out who you are. Fourth, who's Venom? Well, you see, Venom, can you explain? Sure, kids, the symbiote said, popping out from Izuku's shoulder, scaring the black-clothed man back into the air. Hi, name's Venom. I'm technically the kid's quirk and their moral/legal guardian. Sorry, your rules on this planet are confusing. So I take it you're an alien parasite. Venom isn't a parasite. Izuku yelled, Kid, calm down. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗔𝗍, she says, I'm not a parasite. I am, however, a symbiote, an alien from the planet 𝗵𝗃𝗏. Last of my kind, as I wiped the planet from existence once I left. We tend to take after the hosts we bond to, like Izuku here, so after a millennium, pretty much all of them turn nasty. I, however, was considered more of a runt, thus my bondings were less forced and more symbiotic. I see 𝗳𝗍𝗧𝗍, scratching his chin. I take it Izuku's still quirkless then? He asked, receiving a nod from the two. Troublesome, the commission banned quirkless from applying to any form of hero school quite a few months ago, though they kept it under wraps to prevent riots. Though lucky for you, Izuku Yagi is considered dead and Izuku Venom has a quirk. Well then, he said, clapping his hands, I believe 𝗧𝗱 has something he's dying to tell you. Said man nodded before focusing on Izuku. What would you say to me adopting you? Adopting? The girl asked as she tilted her head and her poofy green, shoulder-length hair flopped down. Yes, I take you in and I look after you, like a father. Izuku froze. The father. She stuttered out before Venom engulfed her again, causing the two males in the room to step back. No, no, 𝗵𝗃𝗏, the girl shouted as the two could see her shaking even underneath all the goop. Izuku, please calm down, no one's going to hurt you. 𝗵𝗍𝗧 pleaded as he hid behind 𝗧𝗱. 𝗵𝗃𝗏, you lied. I don't want a father or a mother, they'll just hurt me again. You said you wouldn't send me back. They glanced at each other worriedly, wondering what they were going to do before the wall behind 𝗵𝗍𝗧's desk burst open. Out of the dust came a coughing pink-haired girl in a tank top carrying some sort of battering ram. Izuku! May yelled, dropping the item and slowly approaching her friend. Izuku, are you still in control? She asked the shaking black figure, who nodded in return. Okay, can you take off Venom? Izuku shook her head. May hummed before asking her final question. Can I come in? This time Izuku didn't even wait before nodding her head very fast, causing May to smile and jump at the black goop, sinking into it instead of bouncing off of it. Silence engulfed the room as the two figures became one. Neither of males even dared breathe in case they set off the unstable girl again. Though they soon calmed down once they saw Venom start to retract back into the girl, revealing Izuku hugging May, crying into her 𝗧𝗍𝗧, as the second girl stroked Izuku's poofy green hair. So, May, what exactly is your relationship with my favorite niece? 𝗵𝗍𝗧 asked, trying to cut the tension in the air. The girl mused. We're dating, isn't that obvious? Dating? The two men yelled, what's dating? Izuku asked, looking up at May from the pink girl. I'll make this clear. Izuku is a small bean, as such the top of her head just reaches May's shoulder. Neither of them are doing anything dirty, they're too pure. Well, May hummed, I'm going to use 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗏 and 𝗵𝗃𝗏 as an example, is that okay? The green-haired girl nodded. So those two are married, right? Izuku nodded again. Well, they have to love each other to be married, right? When someone makes you feel really happy, there are meant to be different types, but those two love each other in a special kind of way. Okay. May smiled and continued. So before they get married, they get engaged, and before that they were dating. Understand? I think so, but don't a man and woman get married? You and me are both girls. 𝗧𝗱𝗏 interjected here. That's the bullshit society wants you to think. You love who you love and no one can say otherwise. They can't control it either. For example, I'm married to 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏, present Mike. Whoa, Izuku's eyes sparkled. That's so cool. 𝗵𝗃𝗏 always said you two were just really good friends. She did now, did she? 𝗧𝗪𝗱 said as his face contorted into a creepy smile. But May, why did you think we're dating? We aren't. May asked as she frowned. I thought that because we ate, slept, invented, cuddled and watched movies together we were dating. 𝗵𝗃 interjects, did you ever ask her? I know that's a problem. Izuku, do you want to date? The green-haired girl looked at her pink-haired friend. I think so. I think I love you. I don't know how else to explain that, but you make me feel happy and safe, plus something else, a warm feeling whenever you're around. That, Izuku, is defiantly love. 𝗧𝗪𝗱 said, holding back a raging Nizu from leaving the office and killing a few heroes in training. Really? I'm dating May. She yelled, jumping up onto May's shoulders. More movies. May yelled out, running around the destroyed office. The two males just stood there smiling at the scene before 𝗧𝗪𝗱 broke them out of their celebration. Izuku, would you like me to adopt you? I would like stay your uncle who would look after you. 𝗵𝗃 already adopted us both though. May said he did. Izuku asked, looking down at her new girlfriend. Yeah, remember our contracts? We signed that, then another document, and he told us he was going to look after us so in case of any problems he could fix them and keep you away from your past. Oh, I fell asleep. Of course you did. Sorry, did he say adopt or look after? 𝗧𝗪𝗱 asked. Look after. 𝗧𝗪𝗱 grinned. No reason. Two thoughts went through his head. First, he was happy the two could date, and the second was he still had a chance to adopt Izuku. The two left as Nizu and 𝗧𝗪𝗱 cleared the debris on the desk as they sat to discuss a few quite important things. All good things to those who wait. Smiley face. Izuku snuggled up to May in their futon. Messing with the inventor's hair, May hummed along to whatever song got stuck in her head for the day. Night mate, Izuku whispered as she fell soundly asleep. Night green bean, May whispered, content to watch her now official girlfriend before she too lost consciousness. Right, I know I said second day, but trust me, you'll all need that bit of fluff to survive this day/chapter of angst. Smiley face. Izuku once more stood outside the classroom covered in venom, shaking from the shouting inside. Kid, we can't hid in the ceiling again. Venom says, but it was quiet. Well, what if we could make them be quiet? How? Why don't you try being big and scary like how you look when I'm in control? Okay, I'll try. Izuku's face inside the goop scrunched up adorably as she tried to push Venom outwards. Venom laughed a bit before telling her to relax and her body will expand. Izuku nodded and did so, growing to a size that barely fits through the door. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door and walked in, silencing the chaotic room. Immediately as everyone turned to face. Izuku/Venom squealed before she lost composure and tensed up, causing Venom to shrink around her. She noticed and quickly shifted her appearance to blend into the background, becoming practically invisible. The class just stare in shock at the place the looming black figure once stood. What the actual F? Bakugo yelled. They disappeared. Izumi yelled, no, I think he shrunk down, 𝗧𝗪𝗱 stated. Momo, feeling Izuku's invisible goop-covered hands around her waist, angrily sighed. Again, it's they. Second, they didn't disappear or shrink down. They turned invisible because you all terrified them, yet again. She sighed again before turning around to the invisible girl clinging onto her back. Izuku, it's okay, they won't hurt you, and if they do, she finished before closing her eyes and smiling at the rest of the class. Izuku slowly stopped shaking and turned visible once again. This time she was just slightly taller than she is normally, barely falling short of May's height. 𝗧𝗪𝗱 walked in and everyone but Izuku quickly made their way to their seats. The hobo man sighed. They scared Venom again. He asked Momo, yes sensei, he sighed. All right, they can stay with you until they calm down. Now let's start class over in the support department. However, the calm morning was about to get very hectic and May for once wasn't technically going to be the cause of it. Though that doesn't mean she wasn't busy inventing in her personal lab though. Power Loader gave it her as part of an agreement that she would make support gear who pretty much anyone that asked, as long as he had approved them first. Said man had just walked into the room, grabbing the pink-haired girl's attention. What are you doing here? It isn't lunch yet, is it? Venom would have come to get me already. She said, still tinkering but not looking at the device. May, shouldn't you be focusing on that? Oh, this? Nah, it's just a projectile launching system with automatically adjustable range and projectile size. Someone from 2B requested it and honestly it's very basic, like I could make this baby so much better. So when they come to collect I'm going to show them what it could be. Then maybe I'll have another amazing client. Oh, speaking of which, how are my adjustments for the third years doing? I'm sure they love them. Why wouldn't they? I mean, calm down. Yes, the third years love what you did for them, but on the topic of support items, 2 teachers actually requested some from us personally. Apparently they can't seem to get the company they want to fulfill their order. Weird, but sure, send them in. 𝗵𝗃 sighed and opened the door again, leaning out and gesturing for the 2 to walk in. Hi, I'm 𝗵𝗃, now what the hell, get out. 𝗵𝗃, what's the matter? What's the matter? What's the matter? I'll tell you what, I'm the one that personally banned them from my support company, Miss Hatsum. Please, 𝗵𝗃 tried to get out. First off, it's 𝗵𝗃. I don't know where you got that name, but that's old news. Second, I will never ever make any baby for you. Even a piece of metal is too good for you too. Young lady. Buffed All-Might says, that's no way to treat us pro-heroes. Pro-heroes, my butt, what would your daughter say? Izumi is very proud of us, I'll have you know. Not that the one you neglected, the one who was abused. What about her, huh? She came to me and Venom on the brink of death one day. She told us what happened before she passed on. I hate you and I will never make anything for you. Ever. The girl yelled before storming out, leaving the 3 adults in silence. 𝗵𝗃 just tells them to leave as he tries to understand what just happened while the 2 heroes stood there shocked, trying to take in what happened. They now thought their daughter was dead, which was good because she couldn't spread her story, but now there were at least 2 people who could end their careers. And for them, those threats could not exist, so they called in their final favor from the detective that hates them most. 𝗵𝗃, on the other hand, stormed over to Class 1A, one person on her mind as she slammed the door open and glared at the blonde parakeet teaching English, scaring him senseless. She then turned to the class, who all shrunk back in their seats apart from Izuku near the back, who titled her head curiously. 𝗵𝗃 made eye contact and walked slowly over to Izuku, stopping in front of her before jumping at Venom and disappearing into the goop surrounding the girl, freaking the class out. Kaminari yelled, they ate that girl. Mina, Quirk, and Momo were the only girls not visibly panicking as they stared curiously at their friend, while the more outgoing of the rest of the class made so much noise Mike couldn't be heard, even with his quirk. So, where did she go, Izuku? Momo asked inside, currently cuddling my body as I think she's angry. I don't like being angry and I don't think she does too. Izuku/Venom stated, oh, Mina cooed, so I assume that's 𝗵𝗃 and she's making a move on you, making a move. Expressing her love. She already did that yesterday though. Wait, really? Quirk yelled, yeah. I found out what dating and love are yesterday. Apparently she thought we were dating but never asked me, so yesterday she did and I said yes. Now I get more cuddles. Mina squealed, silencing the class. Ishido. Ida said while robotically waving his hands, that's no way to act as a student of UA. Shut it, robot boy, let me be happy. About what, Karo? Azui croaked, none of your business, frog bite, she said, freezing as Momo glared at her. Thank God, the Ravenet mumbled, and as for you guys, pay attention to class, it isn't over yet. Thank you now class, let's continue. Mike said, trying to grab the attention back to him, but what about that girl Venom, eh? She jumped into them, plus I would rather not deal with an angry 𝗵𝗃. Trust me, you all want to be on good terms with her. Shoto asked, curious after seeing the girl and her cough, you know what, bloody perv. Yes, she's an amazing support first year, just like the rest of you. In fact, quite a few faculty members applied for new gear they got yesterday. I assume you helped with the designs, Venom. Anyways, I don't know what's wrong or why she did that, but as long as she's happy, I'm happy. But Ida tried to yell, that's bullshit. Katsuki yelled, for once I agree with him. Izumi yelled back, quiet you too, or do I need to put a mark against your records? This statement from the louder blonde in the room quickly shut them up. How could such a young girl be entrusted with heroes' lives? Ida yelled back quite simply, her and Venom are pretty much the biggest names in the support industry, even having David Shield under them. Plus I'm pretty sure your brother is one of their continuous clients. Izumi and Ida gasped, Uncle David? / brother. Yeah, now I wonder what went wrong. All I know is that All-Might and his wife were going to see her about some support items. Oh, Izuku/Venom stated as she tensed up, that explains it, I won't pry, don't worry. I prefer your amazing support items over your reasons for disliking them anyways. But for now, English grammar. The lesson came to a close as the bell signaled for lunch. Mike told them to be prepared when they came back for hero training, to which they all agreed to before they left, leaving Izuku inside the classroom with a sleeping May cuddling inside Venom. Izuku shook her awake gently and May grumpily woke up, though once Izuku promised her that she would work with her during lunch. May jumped out of Venom and started dragging her over to the personal support lab she'd been assigned so she could cuddle and tinker. Lunch ended and Izuku said bye to May, leaving her lab and making her way back to the classroom, meeting up with her new friends on the way. Izuku kept herself around May's height as they talked about the upcoming class, though as they approached the classroom door they fell silent, ignoring the shouting from behind them as they took their seats and waited for their teacher. The bell rang and no one appeared in the noisy classroom. Most of them didn't notice the lack of a teacher, but a few did and they frowned. 5 minutes went by and there was still no sign of the teacher. By now their class had receded into worried mumblings as they finally realized whoever their teacher was hadn't turned up. Just before the 10-minute mark, footsteps could be heard from outside before the door flew open and All Might flew into the room yelling, "I am here," coming through the door like a normal person. All Might. The class yelled Dad. Izumi yelled Eep. Izuku/Venom squeaked at the same time as the others reacted positively, jumping up onto the ceiling and turning invisible again. The class froze and turned to the green-haired girl. Dad? Momo asked confused. Izumi rubbed the back of her head. Yeah, I'm All Might's daughter. Sorry, slipped my mind. The class started going crazy over her, at least the ones who didn't dislike her. Momo on the other hand frowned. She saw straight through the girl's facade and wasn't happy, using her lineage to gain popularity. Anyone with good family could do that. She and Ida had purposely not mentioned their family, but Izumi had everything planned. Momo saw through it all though and wasn't happy. She forgot about all of that though as she glanced behind her to talk to Izuku, only to find an empty space. All her anger turned to worry as she glanced around frantically trying to find her jumpy friend. Anyways, here are your hero costumes, All Might announced, pressing a button as the wall flew open. Before noticing Momo's behavior, "Young lady, what's the matter?" he asked. Momo turned to him. "Slightly the problem. The problem is you startled my friend who is now missing, so excuse me if you didn't make a good first impression." Shoto turned to her and frowned. "Don't talk like that to Uncle. You don't want to make a bad first impression too, do you?" "Yamamo." Momo just glared at the boy until Venom spoke up from above them. "Don't worry, Ponytail, we're fine, but we'll meet you out there. Plus we don't need a suit." The class glanced around worriedly trying to find the source of the deeper voice while Momo just sighed and looked up and the ceiling tile moving by itself. "Alright, bye Venom." At this point most of the class lost interest and made their way to their hero costume cases, grabbing them and making their way out. Mina and Kyuka hung back with Momo asking about why she called Izuku Venom. Momo sighed, giving in and explained what she knew about Izuku's quirk. She knew that Venom was sentient and a caring figure who looked after Izuku once he manifested, but he appeared late, so Izuku was quirkless before. The two girls were confused and asked why that was so bad. Momo sighed again, then explained the situation of most quirkless people in Japan, which lead to the three freezing outside the changing room. Mina and Kyuka in shock while Momo patiently waited for them to get a grasp of what was just said. Once they did, they walked into the bustling female changing room silently, quickly getting changed and making their way out to the fake city, seeing Izuku lying there covered by Venom on the side of a building. They let her be and stood around waiting until All Might turned up and complimented the three on their punctuality, blindsiding Izuku as Venom tried to calm her down. The rest of the class did eventually turn up and get complimented by All Might on their amazing costumes. All Might then went through the exercise, albeit poorly, which led to lots of questions asked at once. He managed to answer them before splitting everyone off into teams, though he ended up with an odd number due to the 21 students. He sighed, setting Izuku to the side with a small smirk before announcing he was sending in Izumi and Uraraka to deal with Bakugo and Ida. Before they went in he announced for them to save some energy for a special round at the end. Everyone looked at him confused, but Venom caught on and growled. Izuku calmed him down while the rest of the matches happened. When he could finally talk he went straight into it, strategizing mentally. "Kid, that 𝗵𝗃 is putting you against everyone. What? The final round, I bet he's bitter you beat his record and bested Izumi. Hell, I wouldn't put it past him to put himself in the round as well. So I can beat them all. Why not, kid? They are literally asking for it at this point. Wait, seriously, I can go all out. Yup, you owe me tater tots tonight though. Hee, calm down, kid. First let's go get some gadgets from May. Izuku shook her head inside the goop. I wanna go this without May's babies. I'm gonna prove I'm strong. Venom sighed and mentally wondered if she was trying to prove this to herself or the F-ups she used to call a family. The rounds passed by quite quickly, the only noticeable feats being the fight between Izumi and Bakugo and the Todoroki twins freezing the building entirely in their own rounds, securing their wins. The class gathered round the number 1 hero, excited for him to announce the special final round. Well done, young. Now for the final round we will all go against Venom, even me. The hero announced as the class turned to said isolated individual. Why, I knew it, I can go all out. Izuku cheered, jumping about with Venom in a style similar to Gran Torino, which caused All Might to sweat a bit. Oh god, Momo mumbled. Aren't you worried? 𝗃𝗃 asked the bouncing Izuku. She stopped and looked at everyone. Oh, why would I? I get to have fun. Sensei, Momo asked, drawing attention to herself. I'd like to drop out. Shut it, you porcelain beach, don't pee out. Bakugo yelled, running forward. Quiet please, young Bakugo. Young lady, may I ask why? All Might says while physically restraining Bakugo. Simple, Izuku here has performed amazing feats and then pouted because they weren't a challenge. Honestly, I'm terrified to go up against them at full power. She said, shuddering. Mina and 𝗃𝗃 looked at each other before turning back to the rest of the class, saying together, I wish to drop out as well. The class just stared at them in disbelief. Sure, they had been pummeled in the quirk tests by Izuku, who was using pure strength. But how much could one person do against a nearly full class and the number 1 hero? That being said, no one else dropped out, so the class minus those 4 and All Might made their way down to the building to plan. Shota and Nizu, however, were watching this worried. Even if their niece had looked directly at the camera putting her thumb up, this would only have one desired effect at the end. All Might's punishment that Nizu had already started planning. Nizu, why are you so? Shota asked from inside his sleeping bag. She's literally vibrating with excitement. The Chimera looked over at his oldest and comfiest friend while frowning. Do you know the reason why All Might is doing this? Shota looked confused. He doesn't know Izuku is Venom, right? So he's just stepping up the challenge for her. No, quite the opposite. This piqued the hobo teacher's interest to get up out of his sleeping bag. Just watch, Shota. Watch, then help me punish this 𝗧𝗃𝗃 stain of a father and teacher. Trust me, you'll like what I've got planned for him. The bell rang for the exercise to start and Izuku vanished, leaving behind a small but sizable crater as she blasted through the corridors and fake streets towards the building, smiling all the way before landing on a rooftop just across the road from said building. In front was a small army of students. Everyone in the opposition team apart from the tormentors and 𝗵𝗃𝗏 were standing in front, guard, setting small traps and making plans to stop Izuku. Meanwhile, Izuku was just vibrating up on the roof, to the extent that Venom's goop was rippling on the outside. Kid, calm down, or I'll stop you fighting. Izuku pouted and slowed down. Fine, right? Take these pawns out, then you can have some real fun. Sure. Izuku/Venom replied, crouching down before launching forward and landing behind them, just in front of the building in a small cloud of dust. The impact causes some of the class to jump back into their own traps, incapacitating them. The rest started waving their hands around trying to clear the dust. Though their efforts were fruitless as thumps could be heard from all around. By the time the dust settled, the ones in the traps were in shock. There in front of them were all their classmates, unconscious around Izuku, still standing tall and seemingly unfazed. Izuku glanced at the still awake but incapacitated classmates before giving a quiet wave and entering the building. Zero sighed as his arms were taped up in a sarcastic manner. We never stood a chance. Izuku, on the other hand, had jumped onto the ceiling the moment she entered the building, becoming invisible again just as a precaution, slowly making her way above the probably trapped floors. Muttering ahead caused the girl to freeze as the Todoroki twins came round the corner, with Shoko complaining about being too cold and her scarred brother just remaining stoic as usual. They passed under Izuku, not noticing her slip down from the ceiling and stand looming over them from behind until a loud thump could be heard throughout the building. The twins slumped down unconscious as Izuku just looked confused at the tendrils that had done the deed, not completely under her control. Venom. She thought, "Sorry kid, you might want to move on, but I still want revenge for what they did to you." "Ah, but I wanted to fight them. We both know that even if everyone in this class and your 𝗧𝗓𝗃 fought you at once, you would destroy them even without my help. At least let the others get a hit in. Anything for you, kid." Izuku smiled before making her way forward and up to the next floor, ignoring the ice below her feet. As she made it up to the next floor, she was faced with a long corridor, her father standing at the end, not smiling. "I am here as a villain." He launched forward. "This will teach you for upshowing my legacies." He drew close in an instant, with a full power punch aimed directly at the girl's fake goop-covered head. Izuku didn't bother blocking as the man's fist met its mark, caving in the fake skull as Venom made the goop loosen up like Izuku died. All Might came to his senses and panicked. "What have I done?" he yelled, trying to get his hand out of the goop head. Venom smirked, reforming the goop in the right shape around the man's embedded fist, and his sharp team cutting into the man's arm. Surprise! All Might freaked out and jumped back, somehow freeing his fist in the process. He didn't stay back for long though, as he lunged again, this time growling in tandem with his angry face before yelling, "United States of Smash." Izuku took over this time and just grabbed the fist, looking confused at the man that used to be her father. But Might, on the other hand, was shocked and tried to pull away, only to find his efforts fruitless. Izuku/Venom tilted her head. "That was your strongest." "A boring." The deech of a #1 hero froze, staring into the cold white eyes on the goop before a sickening crack could be heard. All Might didn't say anything before looking down at his now bloody arm, then back up at the goop-covered girl before screaming extremely loudly. Izuku let the man fall down, clutching his broken arm still buffed up as erratic footsteps quickly approached. "Dead." The green-haired girl yelled as she came round the corner. Izuku froze and started panicking, her adrenaline from fighting wearing off as she met the eyes of her familial tormentor. Venom, on the other hand, lost it and gently took control. Izumi froze as Venom walked towards he, growing with each step, the symbiote itself swelling and swirling in an almost hypnotic notion. The girl couldn't even move as the monster drew closer, only managing to let out a scream once she had been lifted up off the floor face to face with the being stronger than All Might. The calm face of the symbiote contorted and tore itself open, once again revealing the sharp fangs and long tongue, which Venom used to caress the girl's face. "Bunks. Pancreas. So many snacks, so little time." Izumi started shaking with fear, staring down the beast in front of her, fainting when Venom opened his fake mouth to a ridiculous degree. He slyly chuckled before relinquishing control back to Izuku. "Venom, what happened?" "Well, she got scared when she saw me. Fainted." "But you're not scary." Venom heart-burst at her innocent statement. "These are silly people, remember." "Oh yes, so do we win?" "Not yet, I think there's on, UF. Someone shouted from behind. Izuku turned to see an angry Pomeranian, snarling yet smirking, just like that day. She froze, 2 incapacitated people behind her, 1 crazy RPST in front of her. Venom didn't even get a chance to take over before he raised both his gauntlets and yelled, "Go to hell," before firing them both. The sound of his voice snapped out Izuku out of her mini panic attack as she saw the twin beams coming at her. Remembering those behind her, she spread herself out in a wide starfish shape, protecting the 2 who didn't deserve it. The screams could be heard over the explosions as those in the observation room started to cry and run over to them. As the screams silenced themselves and the boy gained his sight back, he stumbled back, tripping over himself at the beaten, bruised and bloody figure in front of him. Even if Venom was no longer weak to flames, the shock of the sudden explosion caused the goop to disintegrate, leaving the girl Baron in plain clothes to be bombarded by the waves of shrapnel that got carried with the blast. She lay there, holes throughout her body, yet no BLD, scars along her body, old and new, and her left eye was gone, nothing remained. "Zoot," the boy stuttered out before her figure disappeared. Venom had quickly understood what happened after getting his senses back. He quickly covered his host and turned them both invisible, as well as actively focusing on the girl's regeneration. As such, Venom didn't move Izuku as he tried to heal her from the brink of death. Bakugo, still in shock, wandered forward, trying to find the girl he bullied for years, the one he just saw die in front of him. He made no sounds and focused on looking as he accidentally kicked the incapacitated figure of Izuku/Venom. "Aye, Izuku." The boy stuttered out again. Venom felt this and took control again, deactivating the invisibility so he could move the larger-than-average body. "Wrong." Venom stated, "𝗬𝗬𝗧𝗟𝗘. You saw the image of a dead girl, one of my many skills. How do I know her? Simple, I was the person she came to on death's doorstep, and I know what you did. Understand this, the kid may want to forgive and forget, but me. I'm the karma, so run, you pretty boy, and remember you will pay." The boy, whose face was inches away from Venom's, fainted. Venom sighed and stood up straight before making their way out of the building and towards May. Venom shuddered. He couldn't hide anything from her, and honestly, when she got protective, she terrified him, and he killed his own species for God's sake. May was busy tinkering with her babies, so when the door opened, she didn't even notice it. Though when it closed, she did, and turned round to face the goop monster. "Hey Venom, I'm making some super cute babies right now. What's the ma dash?" Her head snapped back, realizing Izuku wasn't in control. "Venom, why are you in control?" Exercise biased past people, pain, explosion, death, saved, tired. Venom proceeded to collapse as the goop lost all structure, falling off of Izuku's blood-stained but much better body. The goop, though, instead of flowing out, went back into the girl as her veins could be seen shifting color as the goop filled her system. May's eyes widened at the sight of it, tearing up just as fast. She jumped forward, cradling the small girl in her arms. "Please, please be okay, don't die, please. I need you." She sobbed into the unconscious girl's tea. 1 or 2 hours passed and the sound of sobs lessened as May held herself back, keeping herself steady by holding on to the one she loved. 𝗵𝗃𝗺, however, had no idea, so he didn't know what he was doing when he banged on the door to the unusually silent workshop with some of the 1A students who managed to recover. "I've got some people who need upgrades. Are you in there?" "Go away," she yelled back. "I'm not making anything for anyone." "Are you okay?" "No, get lost." "May, I'm coming in, please." May panicked as the uncovered form of her girlfriend lay in her arms. "No, you come in here and I'll use one of my babies on you." Childish screams could be heard as one of the 2 types of reaction. Silence followed as a heavier set of footsteps carefully made their way away from the scene. Not 10 minutes later, 2 sets of footsteps arrived at the door from different direction. Some mumbling ensued before a lighter knock on the door was heard. "May?" Nizu asked. "May we come in? It's just me, Shota, and you, sensei." "Nizu," the pink-haired girl hoarsely yelled as Izuku started to shift. "Yes, it is I. You know you and he know." "Know what?" "Yesterday, please send sensei away." Muttering could be heard from the other side of the door before angry stomping could be heard as the person left. "May, it's just me and Shota now. Please let us in. We've been trying to find Izuku. We need to see if she's okay. It's unlocked." As she said this, the door slowly opened and the 2 men stepped into the workshop before the taller of the 2 closed the door, using the locking mechanism to close it from the inside. May looked up at the 2 with her tear-stained and gaunt face as she shifted her body to let the 2 men see the black-veined girl, covered in bloody and broken clothes. The 2 let out a sharp gasp before slowly making their way over, careful not to scare the terrified girl in front of them. The principal shifted his beady eyes from his unconscious niece to his future in-law. "May, what happened?" May started shaking. "I don't know, I was working. They both came in, but Venom was in control. He said something about an exercise, bias, and explosion, then death." The 2 men looked at each other, but he said he saved her, but he was tired. Then he collapsed and the goop went back onto her body, turning her veins like this. She held onto the light, unconscious girl tighter. Nizu stole one last glance at the girl before hopping up onto Shota. "May, we should get her to recovery, girl. No hospitals, no nurses, that's the rules. Venom's better." The 2 adults glanced at each other again. "Rules?" The Chimera asked. "Yes, to stop us getting sent away. Me, Izu and Rai came up with them." Nizu rubbed his chin. So you are confident in Venom's ability to heal. Yeah, he's healed Izuku a few times already. This isn't the first bomb she's survived. And what would the other be? Well, Izuku bolted up and gasped for air as the two adults jumped back. Mei just looked at the girl in her arms before hugging her tightly, soaking the green-haired girl's said girl blinked a few times before looking around and seeing her girlfriend sad, so like any normal person she started stroking her pink dreadlocks, calming her down. Once the sobbing had stopped, the girl looked up at the two adults in the room. Hi. The two just stared back at her like she was crazy. Nizu quickly coughed to cover up his shock and bring his coffee-infused friend back to reality. So finish up in here, then come meet us up in my office. A few things need to be talked about. Okay, she said before turning her attention back to Mei. The two adults then silently back away, making their way out of the door and into the corridor, careful not to make a sound, before Nizu pulled a sign out of nowhere, making 𝗧𝗪𝗍 put it on the door, so the two would no be disturbed. Silence engulfed the two until 𝗧𝗪𝗍 spoke up. She was too relaxed, even if All Might sabotaged the cameras and we couldn't see what was happening, the whole school heard those screams and explosion. Indeed, his animal companion replied, but that's not the issue at the moment. Well, it is, but for now let's focus on dealing some justice. Expelling students is always my favorite part of being a teacher. Indeed, alas though we cannot do such a thing. 𝗧𝗪𝗍 grumbled, bloody corruption. I know, but at least Bakugo will be punished in his own home. Why not just expel him? Well, it seems like that Yagi Beach and 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗃 could possibly be dating. If we expelled him and she revealed it, it would not be pretty. Again, F the corruption. Nizu sighed but was silent until the two reached the office and made their way in, meeting 3 families instead of 2. Todoroki's, what do I owe this pleasure? The rodent asked with genuine kindness and curiosity. Well, Enji replied, it seems one of the students took it too far in a training exercise, so I'm here to see that their punishment is severe enough. Nizu said as 𝗧𝗪𝗍 set him down in his desk, while curling up in his special chair beside it. Then we have a problem. See, that student will not be punished, and I also assume you haven't been told the whole story. It seems so, old friend, the man stated, glaring at his 2 children, so since my brats won't say a word, please do start from the beginning. All in due course. First, the 2 other families here today, I wish to make it known that if you were any other students, your stunts would get you expelled. But since the world we live in is unfair, you get to stay, you'll only wish that I expelled you right here and now. The children started sweating porously, while Mitsuki spoke up, would you mind explaining? A mother does need her reasons for actions. Of course, Mitsuki. Now today was hero training, and since we had an odd number, this gave a perfect opportunity for one hollow and vain number 1 hero to get revenge of a student who wiped out his record while beating his daughter in the entrance exams. He set himself and the rest of the class up against them. 3 students who were close friends saw the bullshit and dropped out. The others were blind or, like the 4 in the room, all in for it. Now I cannot confirm their reasons for joining in, so I cannot lay the blame on them. But Toshinori, now this is going to be fun. You violated so many laws and safety rules at the school. You endangered your class by fighting the strongest person on campus for a grudge. Then you go and sabotage the cameras so we have no evidence against you. However, you forgot to erase the part of you erasing. Funny no. 𝗷𝗄𝗃 the man tried to reply, have no excuse. Indeed. Now said student is luckily one of the nicest and kindred souls I have ever met. And I know you all do too. Enji raised a flaming eyebrow. Who is it? 𝗬𝗏. The door opened and in stepped a venom-covered Izuku with a Mei hugging on the outside of the goop on her back. Izuku froze walking in, her past right in front of her. Ichai. She mumbled her aunts and uncles she had dealt with, but every one of her problems in a room. It set her on edge, which Venom quickly started to mentally abbreviate, reminding her of the technique he taught her. She breathed in calmly, then breathed out, blocking those 6 from her mind, erasing their existence like they did to her. Venom. The 4 adults shouted. I never got to thank you. These new suits you made for me and my wife has made out hero duties so much easier. Enji announced, indeed, he is no longer always overheating and I'm not always cold. Thank you, Ray said, and those nanotech mannequins you have us with holographic features are a godsend, Mitsuki says. Yeah, they make designing so much easier, her husband agreed. Izuku/Venom chuckled. Well, when two amazing pro heroes and two of the best designers come to my doorstep, how can I not give them my all? The four smiled at him before it clicked for the flaming hero, and he scowled. So Venom, I take it you're the kid you smashed my kids' heads together. Izuku froze, afraid of him but was too honest to lie. Yes and no, it was Venom and it was in a training exercise. His wife hummed before the four adults suddenly bowed. We are sorry for our children's actions. Izuku and Mei just stood there in shock. While Izuku stood, Mei clung onto Izuku. Izuku smiled. It's okay, you had nothing to do with this. And Enji, sorry about smashing your kids' heads together, it was more Venom than me. Enji looked up. But you are Venom? He asked, confused. Izuku/Venom gasped. I never told you my quirk, did I? Well, Venom is the name of my quirk. It's a sentient type who's looked after me for a while now. Venom, do you want to say hi? Why not, kid? Venom said, popping out on top of Izuku's head. And Bonfire, I'm sorry about doing that. It was quick, efficient, and I needed a little revenge. The room froze and Izuku started panicking. Enji stared down the new goop head before bursting out in laughter. I like you. Not only have you kept two of my favorite support designers safe, you have a good mouth on you. His face then turned serious. And what do you mean by revenge? Simple, Momo. The man froze as his wife picked up the conversation. Would you mind explaining? Sure, I know the Yayarozus very well along with the kid here. So trust me when I say they're scared of you. Scared? Indeed, the number 2 hero coming in, who's known for his violence, asking if his son can date their daughter. You see how it can be interpreted. But I made sure he was on his best behavior. Maybe, but in actual fact it just scared them more. Please try and talk to them. I do believe they think it's a quirk marriage, which is why they asked me and the kid to step in case things go sour. That is troubling. I see what you mean. Don't worry though, I myself will fix this. But what do you mean just in case things go sour? Izuku Yagi. The room froze up again, before Mei shouted out. Venom, we're keeping her safe. Yes, but she is the reason why I don't trust that boy. But and... Venom, you owe me pizza. Izuku/Venom chuckled. Sure, Mei. She said before turning to the gasping adults. I'm sorry, but I cannot tell you any more about her. She is safe and healthy, but she has asked to not be linked to her past. And I assume you can tell why I don't trust your offspring. Enji started to tear up, fire building in the corners of his eyes. Indeed, and I don't blame you. I believe they have changed, but still, it's okay, I don't blame you. The girl is safe though, and she wanted me to tell you that she holds no animosity towards any of you. She does want to see you but is still scared. Enji wiped his tears away. Of course, we will wait until she is ready. Izuku, Venom, and Mei smiled. Now then, Nizu said, clapping his hands together, onto the matter at hand. Since we cannot confirm the Todoroki twins' involvement, they will not be punished. However, the 2 other students can be tied to the scene. First, Izumi, if I may interrupt. Venom said, the girl did nothing wrong. In fact, the screams were of me scaring her as to incapacitate her. No physical harm came to her, it was all psychological. Nizu hummed, of course so, Miss Yagi, I guess you are free as well now. But Bakugo, the explosion and your position when found clearly signify your involvement. Not only that, but Venom here sustained life-threatening injuries. With clear intent to kill you, launched an attack. Honestly, you should be sent to jail, as what you did was nothing short of villainous. However, due to your connections, you are getting a one-time pass. You will still be punished by your sensei as he sees fit. However, just know that you are on your last legs here. Any problems with that, Masar? None, he said, glaring at his son. And when you get home, you're banned from all quirk usage when not at school or in a life-threatening situation. Nizu chuckled. Indeed, a wise choice. Now to 𝗧𝗏. Your teaching license will be revoked and you will be on provision. Any teacher, apart from your wife, will have to be with you whenever you teach. You will have to personally fill out the forms for this incident and write personal apology letters to the rest of Class 1A that aren't in this room, and Venom as well as Mei, considering she had to see her lover almost die. You owe me 500 yen, Ray yelled, causing Enji to sigh and Nizu chuckle. Izuku and Mei just looked confused but turned back to Nizu. On top of this, any and all exercises will have to be run by me personally a week in advance. Now that was just for your sabotage. For placing yourself in that fight with the wrong intentions, you will become the teacher's lapdog for the rest of the year. Any teacher can pawn off unimportant paperwork onto you and you will have to accept or be fired. Understand? I've also contacted Gran. He will be here shortly to beat some sense into you. Don't try to run this time or I'll have him stay longer. The buff man gulped. Now all of you apart from Venom, May and 𝗧𝗱𝗃 are dismissed. The three families took their leave, the students with their heads down quiet and the parents fuming for different reasons. Once gone, Nizu cleared his throat. Now Izuku-𝗵𝗃𝗲, I'm here to warn you. The government's ban on quirkless heroes is probably their first step, so please be careful. The two nodded. Second, we will be putting dorms into place soon. I know it will be challenging keeping your identity a secret, Izuku, but we've made provisions for that. The parents will be asked and everyone will be moved in before the sports festival. Any questions? Izuku and May shook their head. You may go. The two took their leave as Nizu sighed. 𝗧𝗱𝗃 shot him a look and understood what was happening, internally face-palming as well. This next year was going to be a pain in the butt. Light spilled onto Izuku's face, waking her from her uncomfortable slumber. She in annoyance and glared at the window, only to find it still dark outside. She groaned and looked directly at the source, only to see the gray box that scares her so much. Seeing it on, she woke up instantly and jumped back, using the blankets to hide her. After a few minutes the phone turned off and she could no longer see the light. Peeking out from her hiding spot, she slowly crawled towards the phone. Venom was still asleep after the chaos of yesterday. She breathed in and tried to remember the calming advice of Venom and Rai when using the phone. She turned it on and the light shocked her as she dropped it yet again onto the soft futon. Breathing in, she steadied herself and picked up the phone again, confusedly looking through all the messages that were on there. Class 1A group chat. Momo added Venom. Izumi, why'd you do that? Momo, it is wrong to exclude someone based on your personal feelings. If this was the case, I wouldn't have even joined this chat. Kyuka? Yeah, sorry, but who are you to judge? Didn't you, your father and your boyfriend almost kill them yesterday? Katsuki, yeah. So what if airs? Katsuki, and you shitty hair, you caused this. 𝗔𝗲𝗧𝗟𝗘. Mina, babe, he added you and then like any reasonable person you added me who went to add my friends to the class group chat, so ignore him, you've done nothing wrong. Izumi, he isn't my boyfriend. Mina, well you two are perfect for each other, being and all. Katsuki, why Tenya? Please, let's have order. Aizawa-sensei said Venom was given some news, that's why Yamamoto added them, afterwards we will remove them. Momo, we will do no such thing, they are a part of our class, thus they will stay I causing problems. Venom. Momo, no Mina, no Kyuka, no Ijiro, no Katsuki, yes Izumi, yes Shoka, yes Tenya, yes Shoto, yes rest of the class. Oh okay bye. Venom left the chat. Momo added Venom. Momo, if any one of you says one more thing against Venom, so help me. Shoto, babe, calm down, you're getting emotional again. Mina, did Kyuka use you? Just Toro, really? Momo, say that. Momo, I'll have you know that I have the right to break up with you whenever the hell I want. I'm not some object you can control and manipulate as you see fit. Mina, go off girl. Shoto is offline. Momo, anyone else want to insult me or Venom? Momo, now Venom, you were told something. I was. Venom, I was. Venom. Izumi, come on, then we don't have all night, we're getting dorms soon. They're coming round to our parents and asking them and we'll move in just before the sport festival. Isn't that exciting? Venom. Class, Mineta, Bubies. Momo kicked Mineta. Izumi added Mineta. Izumi, class 𝗔𝗍𝗍𝗃. Momo ban Mineta. Momo, and people need boundaries. Actions for people without All Might backing them have consequences. Of course you wouldn't know that. Denki, dorms huh, that'll be exciting, right Kyo? Kyuka is offline. Denki, alright then. Denki is offline. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁, this should be fun. Shoka, and Venom won't be able to keep secrets anymore. Tenya, indeed, it is very unprofessional to do that, you are more of a villain than a hero. Momo, Venom has every right to keep secrets, everyone has them. If you knew even a sliver of what they went through you would retract that statement. If you lived through one day you would be traumatized for life. Yet they had to live through nearly a decade of it, so stop assuming. Tenya, we deserve to know Mina, you deserve to get detention Ijiro, so not manly dude Aizawa. I'll have you all know that Venom has every right to not reveal personal details, you all aren't exactly nice to be around anyways. Plus Ida detention for calling someone a villain. Yagi and male Todoroki extra homework for trying to incite a fight while also being sexist. And Katsuki. Calm down and enjoy your new detention mates Aizawa. Also everyone offline now. It's 3 in the morning and I do believe you all woke Venom up, which is enough in my book to give you detention, got it. Class. Everyone is offline. Izuku shut her phone down, letting the room drop into darkness again. Instinctively reaching out for May's warmth, only for her to realize she wasn't here. She pouted, remembering how 𝗵𝗃 had called May in as she needed to build some babies due to her neglecting those duties for Izuku's health. Of course the same could happen to Izuku when she started heroing, and they talked about this. Izuku may live to save lives and bring smiles, the same with her babies, they both promised to put each other first. Even Rai was impressed by their matureness, though he did chuckle when they both started hugging seconds later. This didn't stop Izuku from pouting though, as she was left in her futon without her very huggable and nightmare-repellent girlfriend. Realizing she wasn't going to get back to sleep, she hopped up on her feet and made her way to the kitchen, flicking the lights on. She started on meal prep, humming as she made breakfast and lunch while also preparing dinner, to celebrate a not dead Izuku. She made some pastries for breakfast and coffee for May, then many bento boxes for lunch with a little surprise for dinner. Izuku stepped back and smiled at her creations, giggling at the reactions May would no doubt have. Packing it up inside the goop, she covered herself with the sleeping symbiote, made her way to school. Passing by the quiet streets as the sun rose was peaceful, the low lives creeping around at night had left and most people hadn't woken up yet. The dew on the park grass was satisfying to look at, and the humidity in the air was refreshing after all the cooking she did. The people around were also very friendly, waving and saying good morning as she passed them until she reached the gates of UA. Swiping her card, she made her way through the maze of paths towards the support department and May's personal lab, not passing a single person on the way there. She reached the room and stepped in only to be met with a nearly burnt-out May stressing over a simple gadget. May saw Izuku and ran towards her goop-covered girlfriend before bursting into tears, frustrated over many small things that had gone wrong. After calming her down, Izuku sat down and spread Venom down like a blanket, seemingly pulling the pastries and coffee out of the ground. May's eyes sparkled and she giggled at the small show before plopping down next to the now ungooped Izuku and digging into the food her girlfriend made just for her. They sat, ate, and talked until the time came for lessons. May pouted but gave in before letting Izuku leave, taking the makeshift picnic basket with her, leaving the pink-haired girl to her baby-making antics. Izuku wandered into the empty classroom, smiling beneath the goop sheet. Gotten used to wearing as she took her seat and began tinkering. Izuku didn't just fix the babies she was given but admired them as well. May's craftsmanship was on another level, above even professional standards, which is why Izuku loved to fix the broken babies and watch May make more. Ida came in soon after, signaling the start of the student rush. Izuku didn't notice, why should she? The gadgets are taking up all of her attention, so she doesn't notice the dirty glare he shoots in her direction. The class soon follow and it's a mix, some ignore her, some glare at her while one loud explosive blonde shouts at her. Thank God Venom can be soundproof. The bell went off and the students went into their seats as Izuku's alarm brought her out of her little world, looking up to see Shota walk into the room. He got to the podium and stared at them all. I'm disappointed in you all except Venom and the 3 who didn't participate yesterday. None of you questioned your teacher on his biased teaching methods. If you had, you wouldn't have gotten an answer like I gave you for the Quirk tests. As such, the punishment will be that only those 4 can be voted for today. Because today you will be choosing class representatives, Yamamoto if you would please. The class groaned but relented, seeing as they couldn't argue against their teacher's logic. Votes were counted and tallied. Izuku ended up with 12 votes, while Momo ended up with 7. Shota called the 2 up to the front to accept their new position and give a speech. Izuku couldn't do it though, so Momo ended up giving a speech for both of them. The bell rang and everyone made their way to lunch, while Izuku made her way to May's personal support lab, humming a tune along the way. She gently slid open the door and crept in, letting the goop close it behind her. "Boo!" Mei screamed, jumping up several feet, before landing back down and glaring at the now ungooped Izuku. The glare fell away though when she saw Izuku giggling, so in retaliation she jumped at her girlfriend, not moving her but still surprising her. The two collapsed into a fit of giggles before calming down and setting up their little picnic. Laying out the bento boxes for them both. Somehow Venom woke up. Honestly, Mei thought it was because Izuku brought out the tater tots. They ate and chat before heading back to their classrooms for mandatory afternoon lessons. When Izuku returned, there was a lot of commotion. Apparently the media had broken in, which set off the alarms, causing the students to panic and crush each other trying to escape. No one got too hurt and the chaos only stopped when they apparently woke 𝗧𝗱 from his nap. Some of them were still shaking from the scolding they were given. The day ended normally and everyone made their way home, or rather for Izuku, grabbed Mei then sprinted the distance to their house so she could finish watching the Kung Fu Panda series and eat ice cream. It was one of the many things she was never allowed in her old life, so she treasured every mouthful, or rather every tub she consumed. Even Mei had to fight to get a smaller tub to herself. The night passed without any problems and Izuku was making her way to school, slowly this time as she had Mei asleep still cuddling. So when she got swarmed by reporters asking her about All-Might, she eeped and turned invisible, jumping over Yu's wall with a single bound. After dropping Mei off in her support lab with several flasks of coffee, she made her way to the still empty classroom, repeating the same actions as yesterday while also receiving the same looks. Lunch came and went without an issue. As they arrived back into class, 𝗧𝗱 directed them to the open wall filled with their hero costumes, telling them to put it on and meet him outside of a field trip. The class sighed, annoyed by the lack of notice, but relented and headed off to the changing rooms. Izuku, however, just jumped out a window, landing right next to the bus, faster than 𝗧𝗱's time. When said teacher did arrive, he just smirked at his goop-covered niece before a random wave of awkwardness hit him, creating tension in the silence. The rest of the class arrived and Izuku whispered something into Momo's ear to announce, "All right everyone, find a place in or on the bus. There's no order or anything due to the layout, but pick wisely because the drive will be a bit long." Momo then glanced at Izuku, who nodded her head. Izumi, however, had a problem. "What do you mean, in or on?" Momo glanced over to Izuku, who once again nodded before jumping high into the air and slowly falling into the roof of the bus. This time Iida had a problem. "Sensei, this attitude is unbefitting of a hero and class representative." 𝗧𝗱 just deadpanned the boy. "Everyone has their own preferences and as far as I see it, Venom has made decision inclusive to everyone, so stop complaining." This shut the robot up as everyone made their way onto the bus, psyching themselves up for the off-campus training. The class seemed to talk and bond, apart from the three girls who were still sour from yesterday and Izuku, who was currently having a mini panic attack on the roof of the bus, something about whether or not she left Mei enough coffee this morning. Venom managed to calm her down just as Azui called up to Venom. "Venom, can I ask you a question if you can hear me?" the frog girl asked, confusing and silencing the bus. Izuku stuck her goop-covered head through an emergency escape window and nodded. "Yamamoto seems to be very protective of you. Do you too have history?" Momo froze up at this question. Izuku noticed this and Mina's efforts to calm the girl down. "We do, but it's not my place to say." "Why, isn't it your history?" "Maybe, but I don't trust you all enough yet." "You said that before, why don't you trust us?" Izuku tilted her upside-down head. "What have you done to gain my trust? If anything, I should hate you for the company you keep." Repeating the same line as Mei did at the entrance exam, catching the hobo teacher's attention. Iida decided to pipe up, "But we're classmates. It's irresponsible to hide such vital information." "It's not vital. Knowing my name doesn't make the chance to win a fight any easier, nor does knowing what I look like. Vital is fighting styles and strengths, the things we're going to do now that I'm excited for." "But, quiet class," the hobo teacher interrupted. "We're here, so stop harassing your superior or you'll get more detentions." Izuku/Venom looked at her uncle weirdly. "I'm not superior." "Yeah, they aren't, I'm the best." Katsuki yelled. 𝗧𝗱 activated his quirk, silencing the loud blonde. "Honestly, the person closest to the next #1 hero, out of everyone including pros, is Venom there." So if I were you, I'd pay a little more respect. Izuku shrugged and jumped off the bus filled with terrified children. Yes, they had seen Izuku's power, but the fact she was closest to number one. The thought sent a chill down their spines at the cold statement from their logical teacher. I mean, who doesn't play favorites every now and again? The class had managed to snap out of their little funk and quickly followed their class rep up the stairs to the USJ, which a few were still disappointed in it not being Universal Studios Japan. When the group did make it to the top, 𝗧𝗪 was actually smiling considering none of them were about the roughly 100 steps up. He ushered them in and the fun began. First up, 13 came out, which earned some squeals from the brunette bobcut, though she calmed down quickly after her sensei shot a glare over to her. 13 then gave her speech about dangerous quirks and proper management of abilities, pointing out a few in the group such as Kaminari who would also fall under the same category. Just as she finished her speech, the lights started to flicker as everyone looked around confused. One person used the distraction to its fullest. Hey sensei, are we facing fake villains as well? Kirishima asked. No. Everyone backed, the man yelled as his eyes settled on the purple gate and the figures emerging. The class could see his mouth moving and his agitated actions but couldn't figure out what was happening, the class apart from Izuku that was. 𝗧𝗪 quickly took a moment while the villains were distracted to gather his class and 13 in a small group. Alright, listen up, these are real villains, so we end dash, he tried to say only to be cut off by an explosive blonde. Hell yes, let's kick some villain butt. Bakugo, quiet, none of you will be fighting if I can help it, but Sensei Izumi intervenes, we need to take them down. Of course. Ida yelled, as heroes in training we cannot in good faith leave these scum to roam free. Quiet all of you. I will not let you fight, end of story. 𝗧𝗪 growled, Kaminari, can you get any signal out of here? Said boy fiddled with his headset for a few seconds before shaking his head, earning a glance from the class monster, as some dubbed her. 𝗧𝗪 sighed, alright then, you all stay with 13, I'll deal with them. Sorry. Izuku/Venom said, Izuku's goop-covered body exploded outwards, not hitting any of her allies, but rather encompassing them in a goop dome. Outside of it, Izuku stood, much shorter, with a venom blade raised before slicing downwards, cutting her connection to the protective function. Good luck, kid, the dome seemed to speak. Thanks, Venom. Izuku/Venom's slightly higher-pitched voice yelled back before leaping down the 50 or so stairs with a single bound. Meanwhile, inside the protective shield, 𝗧𝗪 slowly came to realize what happened. Venom. Present. A voice called out right next to him. He turned next to him to see the iridescent eyes boring into his soul. Explain. Something you would call an ultimate move. We two can separate for a PRD of time. The problem being we'll both start to deteriorate if we don't reunite. Plus you couldn't stop her even if you wanted to. Look here. The teacher glanced in between the eyes to the object shown and sighed. How long can you stay like this? At most. 2 hours, the kid should be finished within 10 minutes. Mind telling your students to not assault me? The man sighed, do it yourself and scare them shitless. It's those 4 causing the trouble again anyways. 5 actually, that robot kid has joined in. Of course, the man face palms, let me explain to 13 while you get these brats in place. Nizu owes me a hell of a pay rise. Venom's eyes then expanded, filling up the pitch-black area with his unsettling glow. It would do you well to stop attacking me. The class froze, even the ones attacking the walls, and slowly turned to face the massive set of eyes staring into them yet providing light. Momo's features relaxed as she saw his. Phew, it's only you, Venom. What's going on? The kids left me here to protect you all, Ponytail, so you don't get hurt while they deal with the problems outside. What? Sensei, that's unfair. Izumi yelled, maybe. He responded, shooting a red-eyed glare at the girl, but I don't have any jurisdiction over them when it comes to things like this apparently. Preposterous. You need to put them in their place. Ida yelled back, they are leagues above anyone else. Still don't know why they came here. Venom. Me and Rai wanted the kid to have more friends their age. Since as amazing as May is, she's only one person. If you don't mind me asking, what even are you? 𝗧𝗪 butted in, a PP being polite, I thought I'd never see the day. And for your information, I'm the person you call Venom's quirk. I'm sentient and my name is Venom as well, The kid just took my name to protect themselves. So be good little heroes in training and wait quietly. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃 yelled, lighting up his palms with miniature explosions. Agree or be expelled, 𝗧𝗲𝗧𝗟𝗘 stated. The blonde turned away grumbling. How much longer, Venom? Soon, but I would be prepared. There will be a lot of bodies and maybe some more gruesome things depending on how strong they are. Of course, they aren't a problem child without a reason. Meanwhile, outside, Izuku stood in front of a sea filled with unconscious bodies, nearly face to face with the two leaders in the attack. The three were having what seemed like a stare down before Izuku spoke up in her distorted voice. I don't care if you want to hurt All Might, but you attacked my friends. I let these people stay clean, but I'm going to make you dirty. The man scoffed. Like hell you could do anything against me, and if you hate All Might so much, why not join me? Having another boss will make us even stronger. Izuku tilted her head. Why would I join you? I want to be a hero. Shigaraki, please, the mist man begged. Quiet, Kurogiri. I would have killed you long ago if you didn't prove your usefulness. Are you finished? Izuku asked as the two focused back on her. Good, she nodded. Now, based on the way your neck is and your scratching, I would say it's a side effect to your quirk. It's also a 5-finger touch-based one, considering you haven't touched anything with all 5 fingers, purposefully avoiding it when scratch. Am I wrong? Good eye. So why not join us? The offer's still on the table. Izuku just stood there silent, unnerving the mist but not Tamura. No, this caused the man to smile harder until the girl spoke up again. You see all these people behind me. I kept them clean, but I'm going to make you dirty. Izuku moved her arms so fast, all the man saw was a black blur, slicing right in front of him. What was that? That was me. Arg, I'm going to kill you. How? With that diamond quirk you seem to know so well about. How can you use your quirk when you don't have hands? What are y-? He looked and finally noticed what that black blur did. Screaming, he fell back, trying to clutch his freely bleeding stumps where his hands should be, sobbing as his brain tried to manifest the right amount of pain to deal with the sudden and impactful loss of 2 important appendages. The BLD nor the tears stopped as Izuku watched him curiously, confused at his incredibly delayed reaction. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 I will also see to it you receive medical attention, and with that and a wave of his hand several portals opened up, consuming him and the injured man-child but also depositing nearly double the number of new villains and a large hulking bird beast. Izuku sighed and pulled out one of Mei's many more deadly babies she had been forced to keep on her just in case of something like the training incident happened again, and activated it. Immediately everyone villain collapsed, their bodies convulsing as all motor functions ceased to respond to their respective host. After all the squirming, only Izuku and the beast remained standing below the stairs. "You aren't human, are you?" Izuku asked. The Nomu screeched in return. "Oh well, so. It looks like you're very strong." She dashed forward, leading with a straight jab destroying the left arm. Shock absorption. She continued examining her own goop-covered arm before looking back towards the stump swelling and regrowing. "And regeneration. You really aren't human, are you?" Nomu screeched, raising its fist. "Well, okay then, let's end this," she said before her black goop-covered image flickered and reappeared behind the beats, some sort of gauntlet in her left hand as she reached down towards the exposed brain, activating the gadget and letting forth a stream of blue lighting, making the beast convulse just like the rest of the criminals. Before it fell to the floor, exposed brain smoking slightly from the current passed through it. Izuku just looked pitifully at the beast before heading back up the stairs and being absorbed into the black dome. Meanwhile, inside, the students were getting bored playing around in the poorly lit goop cave, and most of them weren't being quiet about it. They didn't have any room to complain though when the goop retracted quickly over their heads and back into their classmate. "It feels good to have you back, Venom," Izuku/Venom said, voice back to its normal augmented gruffness. "Good to be back, kid." The goop replied from nowhere. After a few blinks, the tired teacher finally addressed the elephant in the room. "So you done yet?" "Yup." The girl cheered. "Well, seeing as we now have lots of criminals to capture, back on the bus everyone." The class groaned but agreed, getting into the bus while Izuku tried to get on top of the bus again, only to be stopped by a police detective turning up and asking for an interview to do with the incident. Izuku agreed and the two left, leaving the cleanup to the 𝗧𝗍𝗪𝗧 of parents and the police. Oh my precious beans, I decided to let the 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Izuku was currently sitting in a dimly lit room facing an obvious two-way mirror, not moving as she had been for hours now. But instead of stewing like they wanted her to be, she was tinkering, ignoring her situation. 𝗧𝗵𝗄 was just face-palming behind the glass, standing with the failed parents known as 𝗵𝗃 and 𝗧𝗵𝗲, who were grinning like madmen, knowingly breaking the law and detaining the girl under false pretenses for an unreasonably long amount of time. This enough set the detective on edge, but 𝗵𝗃's final comment was the final punch. "Honey, you could cripple them, that way they could never perform hero work again and our legacies would be safe." The man beamed. "𝗵𝗃 darling, criminal," the tired man spoke up for the first time since bringing the girl in. "This right here is illegal and I only agreed to make sure my niece is safe. That is villainous and criminal. You forget about the cameras. So go through with that and I'll have both your heads literally by the end of the day, got it?" The pair nodded quickly, shutting up. "Good, now I'm going to ask our guest some questions." The man quickly left the room and made his short journey to the room, entering quickly and silently before making his way to his seat. When he did end up facing his guest, he was surprised to see they were focusing on him. "Sorry for the wait," he apologized, scratching the back of his neck. "Wait," she replied, tilting her head. "How long was I here?" "I'd rather not say." "Please tell me." "Fine, you've been detained for 3 hours. "Detained? I'm not currently incapacitated and this rudimentary structure could not hold me. I'm not currently detained but rather waiting for questions to be asked." "Well, oh, I'm sorry, rudimentary." "Yes, the structure itself is very weak and I could very much just walk in a straight line out of here." The man gulped. "Well, let's start. May I ask what you were doing while waiting?" "Tinkering." "With what?" "These," she replied, bringing out an assortment of half-dissembled gadgets before the back into the goop. The man blanked. "How, we cleared you before you came in." "You did?" "No one bothered to ask me. They were in my goop safe and sound." "So all this time you've been tinkering?" "Yes, can we get to the real questions now?" The man nodded his head and began investigating the incident. Seeing as she was the only on there, she was his only primary witness to the main actions. So when he heard that they had something that could kill All Might, he was stunned, then gobsmacked when he learned she dealt with in under 30 seconds. All the while making notes and ignoring the glares he could feel behind the one-way mirror that his guest seemed oblivious to. He finally finished the questioning about this issue and moved on to the more important information. "Now then, I have been told you have info on the cold case of Izuku Yagi." "Indeed I do." "Would you mind No, pardon? "No, I will not. That information is none of your concern, nor is it those two people behind that one-way mirror." The man just sat frozen for the third time as banging could be heard from the outside the sound-sealed room. "Well then, I'm afraid, Venom, you are under arrest for the Actually, I'm not. Look here," she said, pulling out the same thing Venom showed Izuku, causing the man's face to visibly pale. Sorry, please take your leave." Izuku nodded and left as the shaken detective went back to brave the ticking time bomb that was the Yagis and their obsession with pride. Meanwhile, over in an unknown area, one 𝗵𝗃 Shigaraki was having his hands dealt with in front of his 𝗵𝗃, who seemed incredibly happy. "You say they said they don't care about All Might?" "Yes, sensei." "So you think there will be a chance to get the person your spy said beat not only the entirety of 1A but All Might at the same time as well?" "Yes, sensei." "𝗵𝗃, what is your opinion on this?" The scarred man turned to the Misty One. "I believe that they are, if you might excuse me, more powerful than you, and if we were able to get them on our side and control them, we would have absolutely no bar against our goal instead of minor possibilities. But they stated they want to be a hero and already turned down Mr. Shigaraki's 2 offers." That is troubling. Doctor, take 𝗵𝗃 here and prep him to evolve his quirk as well as be ready to receive mine." The white-coated man dealing with the man-child nodded, the one with missing appendages out with himself. "Sir?" 𝗵𝗃 asked his silent Mr. after several minutes. "It seems it's time to call in some favors. This Venom is related to Shinrai 𝗣𝗃𝗃, the quirkless businessman making a splash in the industry. No. They are in indeed, sir." "Good, very good. You are dismissed, 𝗵𝗃. "Of course, the being said before leaving. The night passed quickly after Izuku walked in on Mei frantically pacing their already packed-up apartment. After hearing the news, apparently Mei wasn't even fazed, but the fact Izuku didn't return definitely put her on edge. So when the small green bean finally returned home and May had smothered her enough, May proceeded to pass out from her worrying exhaustion. The sun rose with the two leaving their apartment at the same time, bubble waffles in hand as they made their way to school. They were luckily saved from reporters as the incident had scared them all back into the legal and proper channels. But they weren't out of the sea of problems that seemed to dominate their lives just yet, and both could feel it. Izu. The pink-haired girl asked, shaking. Yes, May. You've still got the 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗟𝗃, right? Yes, you feel it too, don't you? The overwhelming sense of dread, of foreboding, threatening to destroy the life we managed to scrounge together. No, why do you ask? Izuku looked around swiftly, confirming their isolation before pulling off her goop mask and pecking May on the lips. After giving another reassuring smile, she put the goop headpiece back on and picked up the now smaller girl. Hee, you always know how to make me feel better, Izu. And you being with me does the same, May. May giggled and continued to hug her hero girlfriend before arriving at her personal support lab with the door wide open. The girls shared a quick glance before Izuku set her down several feet from the open door, opening it slowly. The creaking did nothing to calm the two down, and when the lights suddenly flicked on, they both jumped back into the empty space behind them. Oh dear, sorry girls, I didn't mean to frighten you. Izuku let out a rough-voiced sigh. Oh, thank Rai, it's only you, uncle. No, the principal said, walking out of the office. I do apologize, I've been waiting to give you some quite dire news, so please follow me. The two girls glanced at each other before nodding and following the chimera to his office, taking their seats quietly. Izuku ungooped, tensed from the atmosphere acquired in the eerily quiet office, aside from the tea being poured, of course. The white-furred beast took a sip of tea before continuing. I regret to inform you both of a horrific law that, as of last night, is now in play. He looked both of them directly in their eyes. All quirkless people will now be branded, the mathematical null symbol burnt into their right hands, on the other side to the palm. Now Izuku here is safe as she technically has a quirk, but, in case you don't know what it looks like, Izuku/Venom yelled, jumping up. Yes, I've been unable to get in contact with him, and the worst part is the force they put together to forcefully brand those already in the world. Izuku looked at her uncle, teary-eyed as May sat there in shock. Uncle, why didn't you stop them? He sighed. They pulled one over on me. By the time I was even informed, the act was already past. How they got it through still amazes me, but, Izuku. May yelled, interrupting, who cares? You've got a destination at Rai's house, go. Izuku looked at the pleading girl. Please, I can't lose him. You can't lose him, he's one of the most important people in our lives. Izuku nodded, gearing up with the unusually silent symbiote before disappearing with a small pop. Nizu just sat there dumbfounded. His niece just broke the laws of physics like Quirks did. He really needed to get an IQ test for her and May. But the first thing for him was calming the pink-haired girl down. Now May, please have some tea and don't worry. I'm sure everything will be okay. Meanwhile, over in the place where Izuku was first shown love from a human in well over a decade, said girl was standing in the hallway. She'd come to a door, with the front door ajar, letting the sun creep into the dark and hostile house. Rai. She called out into the abyss. Rai, it's me, Izuku, are you there? She got nothing but wind and silence for a minute, prompting her to edge forward slowly. Though she quickly stopped again when she heard pained groans and large bodily thumps. Ara, she screamed, bolting forwards towards the sounds, straight through anything in her path, sofas, walls, stairs, ceilings. All were holed through, leaving a trail of dust and plastered powder. Once it set, Izuku was clearly visible beside a semi-conscious Rai, feeding some of Venom into him to try and fight off the infection left by the fresh deep wound. Kid Venom spoke up for the first time that day. Please calm down. Izuku just turned her uncovered head over to the newly formed one before breaking down into tears. Venom sighed but continued, Kid, I'm sorry, I truly am, but I will not heal this scar. WWI, if they come for him again, I'm not sure he'll survive. Kid, the man's older than you, he can't bounce back as well. So you're doing this TT to protect him? Yes, thank you, she yelled before collapsing. Venom just sighed, engulfing the girl while growing to his uncontrolled form. He glanced down at the frail man he and his host had grown to love so much before slinging him over his shoulder and making his way back to Yuga, leaving the translocator destination pod there just in case. Venom did glance back at the house just once, before saying, "I truly hope you live a long life, old man. I don't know what either of us would do without you." It had been nearly 10 minutes since Izuku left Mei, and the latter was starting to freak out. The uncertainty of both the people she loved was driving her mad, and all of 𝗍𝗃's tea did little to calm her raging imagination, which for once was working against her. Though when Mei's phone went off it was both a blessing and a curse. First, Mei was overjoyed to see who messaged her, but on the other hand she'd been so shocked she'd thrown her teacup into the air, which 𝗍𝗃 luckily caught and was now fawning over. Mei chuckled before checking her phone. Izuku direct message Mei, Mei. Izuku, are you okay? ISRA okay, are you both alive? Sorry to disappoint, it's Venom not Izuku but both are okay Mei. Thank Mei. Wait, what happened? Why is Izuku not messaging me? Long story short, we found Rai close to dying. The shock and infection from the wound got him. The kid used me to heal him, but in the end she collapsed from the stress. Mei. Oh, so she's okay? Yes, Mei, and Rai. Alive but still branded Mei. So why haven't you fixed it? Smiley face. Well, you see, I have a perfectly good explanation for that. Mei, please explain. If we remove the brand and they come for Rai again, I'm not sure he'll survive another branding. Mei. Okay, Mei. Why aren't you back yet? I have a man in critical condition and an unconscious girl. I really don't think translocating is going to be good for them. Mei. Fine, time elapsed 5 minutes. Mei. Izuku, time elapsed 5 minutes. Mei. I'm here, I'm 10 minutes away. What took so long? Mei. I told 𝗍𝗃 and he rushed me to recovery girl. He promised me that bending the rules this time is okay. So come here when you get here, got it? 8 minutes, then you can hug the kid. Mei. Venom. Yes, Mei. Mei, thank you for everything you've done. For me, for Izuku, for our dreams. I never said it before, but you are the best parasite I've ever met. You're welcome, Izuku, but I'm not a parasite. Mei. I'm messing with you. Hurry, you pup. Glad to see you're no longer mopey. Be there soon. Mei looked back up, smiling for the first time the news dropped. 𝗍𝗃 noticed and relaxed but didn't let up with his preparations. If he was lucky, all this life support would be unneeded, but he knew his place in the universe, underneath a never-ending series of unfortunate events. The door burst open a few minutes later, and the large figure, clearly identifiable as Venom, walked in with a black-veined Rai, cradled in his arms. Over here, Venom, this bed. 𝗍𝗃 said, standing next to the prepped bed. Got it, rodent. The chimera flinched. What's with all the machines? Just in case. You don't trust me. I've learnt it's better to be overprepared than caught off guard. Wise words, rodent. Wise words. At this point, Izuku decided to wake up and automatically take control. Just as Rai was placed down onto the bed. I am awake, 𝗍𝗃 chuckled. I can see that. Now please sit with Mei. I want to talk with you three about a few things. The two girls glanced at each other before occupying the other prepped bed, Mei snuggling into Izuku's lap, letting the green head's hair run across her face. 𝗍𝗃 smiled. For once in his long life, he genuinely smiled. No malice or world domination, just happiness. Now what I'm going to ask, it's going to be a lot, but with the dorms coming in under a week, me and 𝗧𝗱𝗃 need to know a few things. Okay. Izuku nodded and Mei just pointed towards the green-eat, agreeing with whatever Izuku did. Good, now my one and only question, what are the rules? Mei glanced up at Izuku, who looked down questioningly. Mei understood and nodded her eyes so Izuku could explain. Izuku understood and took a deep breath. Rule number 1, when not somewhere safe with people we trust, I wear Venom and am known as Venom. 𝗍𝗃 nodded. Who are these people, may I ask? Me, Rai, David, Sir and Melly when I see her again. You and Uncle 𝗧𝗱𝗃 are 2 new additions. Please continue. Rule number 2, stay away from all forms of public anything, healthcare, transport, police. If not possibly and are drilled for answers about me, stick to the story. 𝗍𝗃 nodded again. Would you mind telling me the story? Izuku nodded. Izuku Yagi turned up on our doorstep while on death's doorstep. We healed her, helped her and know everything about her and her past. Any more information is currently not available, and if you want to get more you need to prove yourselves. 𝗍𝗃 nodded. Rule 3. When in legal or public trouble, call Rai, Physical trouble call me and confrontations may. 𝗵𝗃 chuckled, why may for confrontations? Because I'm scary, yelled said girl, my scary bean. Izuku replied, 𝗵𝗃 sighed, please don't tell me you've been using the internet. No, Mina calls B and May the bean couple, so I'm now green bean and May's scary bean. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 growled Z. 𝗵𝗃 chuckled, I see. Now any more rules? 2 more. Rule 4, we can only agree to share my identity or the rules if me and someone else on that list agree, or the majority of that list agree if I'm not available. The final rule. Rule 5, anyone who touches May in an inappropriate way dies by either me or Rai. I see, add me to that list. Of course, uncle. Good, now you two are exempt from all lessons today and this room will be all yours, Chiyo agreed. Now rest, you 4 will have a lot to talk about when Rai wakes up. The 2 girls nodded at the rat god made his way out of Chiyo's office, making sure the door was locked behind him and the only key was secured around his neck. It seems we have another puppet emissary working behind the scenes again, he hummed walking towards his office. Or maybe he's still alive, dear God, if he is, I hope Izuku can end the threat more quickly than the man who crippled him but got crippled in the first place. His door swung open and he made his way to his desk. Actually thinking about it, that 𝗵𝗃 seemed to hold multiple quirks from the reports. This links Shigaraki to him, and since Izuku took the man's hands, I can only assume Shigaraki was some sort of successor. Dear God, I don't know who to be more scared of, all for one Izuku when she finds out that it was that man who forced the law. The day passed quickly once the man woke up and comforted the 2 girls technically in his care. They called up his boss and turns out it hadn't even made the news yet, which infuriated the man who immediately put the phone down in a rage, causing Rai to sigh. Izuku asked what was happening, to which Rai explained his 𝗵𝗃-like tendencies in terms of revenge. So by the end of the day every news outlet was displaying the new quirkless branding law, though some of them were more supportive than they should have been with someone as liked as Rai being branded. All in all, the rest of the week passed without much incident until it came time for the dorms, just a week before the festival. So now in the weekend before the live event, Class 1A stood in front of their new living spaces as their tired teacher came out, a little more happy than normal. Listen up, brats, the hobo yelled, garnering their attention. Welcome of Heights Alliance, your new home for the next 3 years. Look around, these people are the people you'll be living with, so be glad that pervert was expelled. Mummers from the girls in agreement broke through his speech, giving a robot a chance to speak up. Ida called out, once again Venom is tardy, is there no punishment for 𝗬𝗧? A glare from the man clad in black quickly shut him up. For your information, Venom was here beforehand helping other and us teachers. They already unpacked and are inside waiting. So in reality, you guys are tardy, come on in. The group followed in silently before being overwhelmed by the size and beauty of the dorms. 𝗬𝗧𝗔𝗊 even fainted in the middle of the common area, only to be caught by no one on the way down. You're all still here. 𝗳𝗏 asked, good, now this is where you'll live, sleep, eat, and socialize until you become heroes. You have access to a limited gym set in the basement and full access to any campus facilities after 5 a.m. but before curfew. Said curfew changes with each year and can be set longer for specific students. Yours is currently 10 p.m. This is when you need to be in Height Alliance. You may choose to stay awake, but just know I'm down the hall and can punish you within reason. The class shivered, while 𝗳𝗏 piped up, Sensei, does this mean you'll be living with us? Unfortunately, yes. My room is on the ground floor, so any problems at any times come find me. Now about rooms, each floor is separated into 4 boys and 4 girls, each on their own side of the floor with each student getting their own room. This comment set the class into a muttering frenzy. This place is amazing. 𝗬𝗧𝗔𝗊, it's a lot smaller than our house. 𝗳𝗏, indeed sister, I for one doubt the quality of the rooms, 𝗳𝗏, but we're all together now, Karo, so some sacrifices must be made, right? 𝗂𝗍𝗍, indeed, but now we're together, Venom will no longer be able to keep their dastardly secrets. 𝗍𝗏, now we can see if they're a dude or a girl. 𝗵𝗃, what are you all talking about? Venom's stupidity seems contagious. He's a he, no doubt, 𝗳𝗏, and if it's a she or a monster, half and half. 𝗵𝗃𝗏, silence, 𝗳𝗏 yelled, shutting up their muttering, and as for Venom, well, he looks down at his watch. I'll let them come down first. At this provocation, The doors slid open to the elevator with a ding and out stepped Izuku covered in venom, slightly taller than 𝗵𝗃, who was currently wearing her, for once, clean inventing clothes. Class, you all are very lucky for one reason in particular. 𝗵𝗃 yelled, indeed, 𝗵𝗃 will be in your dorms, or rather sharing the top floor with Venom. The two have expressed permission from me and Nizu before you blow a fuse 𝗧𝗍𝗧. In return their floor is sealed off to those without a card, he flashed his. You may obtain one at their discretion but also book appointments to get support upgrades faster than others. You all only are able to receive this massive benefit thanks to Venom and their permission from their own support company. This brings me to my final point. If you have any problems with what I've just said, the principal's number is on the fridge, call him up and try to make your foot. I dare you. With that he walked away, leaving the class to form their cliques, some arguing about the obvious favoritism, some complaining about Venom's secrets and one planning a sleepover, which would be Izuku and 𝗵𝗃's technical first one. So we're settled for this evening. Mina asked, to which the rest of the group nodded, and if 𝗳𝗍𝗍 pops in. 𝗵𝗃 glanced at Izuku who froze, remembering what she wanted to do this evening but nodded once she saw the look in her friend's blacked-out eye. The groups then slowly started to disperse, getting their rooms ready for themselves while Izuku and 𝗵𝗃 settled on the couches, waiting for this evening. 𝗵𝗃 Izuku/Venom whispered, I can't stand waiting. For the sleepover or the plan? Both, but more so for the plan. How can I continue to provide for those who hurt Rai? How can I hold this special hero license they gave me in an exception? To use it against them later. Izu. I know, but I just hate holding on to it. They branded Rai for crying out loud. And if we play this by the plan, they'll pay tenfold. I know, just one more week, one more. Then you can shake up a storm after winning the festival. Izuku chuckled, you don't doubt me losing, do you? Can you blame me? My girlfriend is stronger than All Might and the top 10 combined. *sigh*. I wish Venom would make things up. Who said I was making things up, kid? Venom popped up at this. The three burst into stupid laughter until Momo, Mina and Quirk came back down a while later, all finished with their rooms, and Venom popped back into his host. Oh, Mina yelled, jumping at Izuku, only to fly straight through the hole quickly made. Oof, hi Mina. Izuku/Venom repiled. Mina pouted on the floor. No fair, I want cuddle too, she said, glaring at the other pink-haired girl cuddling up to Izuku. Izuku tilted her head. You could have just asked. Stars appeared in Mina's eyes. Really? Yeah, all of you could have. I'm trying to get better as physical contact, so go ahead. Momo chuckled and climbed over the couch, as Mina and Quirk also hopped on. It took a minute, but all five were finally comfortable in their little cacophony of bodies. Ah, you're so warm, Izuku. Mina hummed, indeed, this is much better than my bed. Momo commented, yes, wait, I have an idea. Quirk just looked at her, dead in the eyes, then 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. We have a room competition. The four other girls thought for a moment before Quirk and Momo agreed while Izuku didn't. Sorry Mina, I just don't trust them not to dirty up our room. The pink-haired pouted, wait our. Yes, me and 𝗵𝗃 share a room and a bed and a kitchen and a workstation. We've been doing this for a while now. No fair, I want to cuddle with 𝗳𝗍𝗍 during the night. What's stopping you? Curfew, sad face. But we just have to be here. Uncle Shoda said nothing about being in our own rooms. My god, you're a genius. I get cuddles starting from tomorrow. The girls giggled at Mina's chaotic laughter until 𝗵𝗃 brought up a good point. What about you two? Don't you have boyfriends as well? Quirk mumbled something while Momo deadpanned the inventor. Honestly, I should dump him. He just objectifies me and tries to have EC with me at any opportunity. It's disgusting. Well girl, new dorm, new life, new chances, do it. Mina screamed, maybe, but I want to do it right. What about you, Quirk? The girl mumbled again before lifting up her sleeves, causing the girls to gasp. They didn't get to do much in the way of understanding as the elevator door pinged and the rest of the class came out. Mina's attention and the dorm competition had begun.